60 Minutes 2 this evening. And then Richard Picciotto, who wrote the book Last Man Down, which became a New York Times bestseller and may in fact still be on the bestseller list. And then we have 6 cuts from a year ago from this program. One that occurred at 8:53 in the morning, and that was 7 minutes after the first plane struck. And it's 4.5 minutes, and it apparently includes me, Charles, and Warner Wolf talking about what happened. And then another that occurred at 9:05 Eastern Time, just after the second plane hit the South Tower. This includes Warner and Susan Waldman's eyewitness account. Susan Waldman, who's a sports reporter, was on some bridge at the time, and I forget what happened. But that's about 8.5, almost 9 minutes. Then there is another tape excerpt that occurs at 9:30 that includes, I guess, again, me, Charles, and Warner, and it includes President Bush's first remarks before he went into the witness protection program there for a few hours. And then there's another cut that happened at 9:43 that includes Jim Miklashevsky's report on the plane that flew into crashed into the Pentagon. And then at 10 o'clock in the morning, we stayed on the air for quite a while that day, some till late in the afternoon, as I remember. The South Tower came down, and Warner was on the phone describing that, and that was chilling.
Absolutely.
And then there's a final cut as the second tower collapses, and we are discussing this plane that was in the air over Pennsylvania on its way apparently to the White House. And that's what we have, and so we're going to listen to all of those coming up this morning, which could be kind of interesting.
Yeah, it could.
Anyway, we had a bunch of primaries yesterday and some other stuff. I don't know if I were, I don't know. What the people I feel compassion and empathy for are these are the people who actually lost relatives and spouses and whatever.
Fathers and mothers.
Have to relive this. I guess. Well, of course I do. But I mean, I haven't talked to any of them, so I don't know how they feel about it. But there's no way to avoid it. But
oh no, how can you?
And it isn't my decision, obviously, but it appears most of the media are being. It doesn't appear that anybody's exploiting this, but I don't know if the Food Network needs to get involved, but apparently they have. So, and these other.
Well, I think they've, everybody.
But everyone was affected, so why wouldn't they?
There you go.
Yeah.
Who wasn't affected?
Anyway, here's Charles with what's going on.
The 1-year anniversary. President Bush says the anniversary of September 11 will be obviously a very emotional day.
It's going to be a hard day for a lot of Americans. It's going to be a day of tears and a day of prayer, a day of national resolve. It also needs to be a day in which we confirm the values which make us unique and great.
The president plans to mark 9/11 by visiting all 3 sites of last year's attacks. He'll attend a ceremony at the Pentagon, where a newly rebuilt wing will be dedicated. He's also to take part in wreath-laying ceremonies at the crash site in Pennsylvania. And then, of course, he's going to visit New York's Ground Zero today, and then will conclude his day by delivering a broadcast speech at Ellis Island in New York's harbor, the Statue of Liberty, and Lower Manhattan in the background. Interestingly, a Liberian-flagged container ship detained by federal and local authorities, in our heightened state of alert at level orange now, has been temporarily ordered back to sea off New Jersey. The MV Palermo Senator was directed to the port of Newark, Elizabeth Marine Terminal, after it was boarded by the Coast Guard and traces of radioactivity were then detected in its cargo during a subsequent pierside search, so the ship has now got to stay in a security zone set up 6 miles offshore while the inspection continues. Officials won't comment on the cargo at this point, saying only that it could pose a potential risk to public safety.
Remember, it's 11 minutes after the hour. Remember a year ago, Ron and Santa from CNBC wound up down there for some reason we'll find out in a second.
Yeah.
And nearly died.
Yes, I remember. God.
Good morning, Mr. Insana.
Good morning, Mr. Imus.
So, how do you feel about this commemoration?
Oh, well, I mean, I think in many ways it's, it's a necessary part of the process to look back and hold memorial services and things like that. I mean, I suspect that as my colleague Bob Pisani was discussing last night from the Ground Zero site, there are people who have a sort of fatigue associated with having to do this more than once, and we've done several different reminiscences, whether it was 3 months after, 6 months after, or when Ground Zero was closed as a recovery site. But I don't see how it's possible not to mark this day in a way that is, solemn and respectful, and I think everybody just wants to kind of, push through it as best they can.
So what happened with you again now?
Well, I was having breakfast in Midtown Manhattan last September 11th when a gentleman at the next table told my table that 2 planes had already hit the Trade Center building. So I made my way down and got in touch with CNBC, knowing that we had people down there and that we'd be covering it. And I was walking probably on Liberty with a MSNBC producer who happened to call me out on the street, and we were within about a block of the Trade Center when it began to blow smoke out of the top, and then it came down. And we got caught in that cloud that was captured on video in a variety of different instances, and I ended up hiding in a car on the street while the debris was falling. It was pitch black, and easily the most frightening experience of my life.
What was the force of that cloud like?
Some of this I don't remember entirely clearly. I remember as we were running away from the building, I looked over my shoulder, and John Zito, the producer from NBC, was being caught by the cloud. And the one thing I don't remember is the sound, and I know it was loud because we couldn't communicate, and a few other things that I've kind of probably just blocked out a little bit. I was speaking with him yesterday, and the street that he was running down after he came out of a building that he had to break glass to get into was impaled with an I-beam from the building. So he said as he was running, there was debris falling all around. I happened to make a right turn around a corner as he ran straight, and I think he might have been subject to more large-scale debris because he was kind of in the open field, and I happened to make my way around a building. So,
did you think you were going to die?
Yeah. I thought at one point when I was hiding in the car that it was pretty hot in the car. It was pitch black. You could not see outside the car. When I was outside the car, you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. I think I was no more than about 10 feet away from a building that I didn't even know at that point was there. So there was a moment or two where I figured I was in pretty deep trouble.
How long were you in the car?
Several minutes. I don't know exactly how long. However long it was pitch black, I was inside the car. And as the sky started to get a little bit grayer, I was able to make my way into the building that was in front of me. I could just faintly see lights inside a glass door that was covered with soot. Once I got inside, there were a couple of police officers and some other people, and I got to wash my face off. One of the women said I was covered in stuff, which I was. And, then we...
Probably not the first time somebody said that to you.
Certainly not. My mother said it several times as a child. And, we eventually made our way to Midtown Manhattan, and I ended up going to work at NBC. But, I'm not sure anybody even knew entirely what was going on when it was happening. I mean, I don't even, in some ways, recall the thoughts I was having. We knew something was terribly wrong, but I don't know that we knew the building had come down. We just knew something had changed.
Wall Street's going to, obviously, exchange will be open today. I guess they're not going to trade until
a half hour after the ending of whatever ceremonies are taking place downtown.
Yeah.
They're going to put 30 minutes in between the two events.
Congress yesterday referred the Martha Stewart mess to the Justice Department. What does that mean?
Well, Congress doesn't investigate or act on criminal activity, so now that they're alleging that some might have taken place, they refer to the Justice Department, which will launch its own investigation to determine whether or not Ms. Stewart made false statements to Congress, which is illegal and carries a 5-year prison sentence at most if you are convicted of something like that. So now that process goes forward. There are 2 points of view on this. One, that Congress has done its job with respect to this investigation and now turns it over to the appropriate authorities, or 2, rather than further investigate a national icon, Congress can kind of slip away and turn this over to somebody else and let it be their problem. The cynical person looks at it in the latter way, and then I guess more sober minds might view it in the former way.
Well, somebody must have thought it was good news. Your stock went up yesterday, right?
Yeah, I mean, I suspect that for a couple of reasons. I mean, one, that the process will move towards some resolution, whether it's conviction or an exoneration, and that will lead to...
also the prospect that she doesn't have to testify in Congress.
And take the fifth, yes.
I haven't been down to Wall Street since, I don't think I have, I can't remember, since about a week after this happened when the police took me down in Bo Dietl to the site, which I had mixed feelings about that, and I still do, about whether I should have gone down there, and obviously anybody... We'd spent so much time down there over the years that I don't know. But anyway,
well, the one thing I'd say about that is...
I'm not done with my question.
I'm sorry. I was just going to comment on your
go ahead.
feelings. Unless you saw it in that period or within a month or two of the event taking place, there's no way to understand what transpired down there. Because today, it is an entirely different place.
So it's been pretty much... The whole Wall Street area is pretty much recovered, right?
Yeah,
physically.
Physically, yes. I mean, and in some ways, emotionally. I mean, if you go downtown, except for this gaping open wound that's still, in Lower Manhattan, the city is as much as it was last September 10th. The street vendors are back. There are crowds of tourists walking around Wall Street. The New York Stock Exchange is protected by a security ring, metal. Barriers and things like that, and that's the only thing you can recognize that is a result of September 11th. But generally, the street traffic is the same, pedestrian traffic is the same. The mood is...
Well, yeah, we were down there. We did the radiothon down there.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, for 5 months afterwards, the air was unbreathable. We would go to work every day at the Exchange with either a surgical mask or a gas mask on because it was so acrid and there was so much dust and material still in the air. I mean, every time they drilled deeper down into the Trade Center site, they would hit a hole that might have a fire burning underneath, and it would release new material into the air, and this went on for at least 5 months.
Normally the fire department, New York City Fire Department, gets 25,000 applicants a year.
Yeah.
This last year they had fewer than 5,000.
Understandable. I mean, I heard yesterday the fireman that you had on in the morning who had been at the second tower.
God almighty.
That story was brutal. Just,
God.
You could start crying just listen to him.
I'll never forget that.
Yeah. But, it is remarkable that the area has come back as well as it has. I mean, even if you go back to last September 17th when the stock exchange reopened, only 4 business days after the event, the speed with which the area has come back, and in many ways, the spirit of the people down there is quite resilient.
Well, that's Grasso. I mean, we always make fun of him, give him a bad time, but I thought he did he's the chairman of the New York Stock Exchange. I really thought he just did a fabulous job. He was almost the Rudy Giuliani of Wall Street.
Yeah, no, I think that's an accurate comparison. And, listen, in our business, we don't always get overly laudatory about people we cover, but when you think of the logistical nightmare it was to piece Wall Street back together, when Grasso and the heads of Verizon and the mayor and others, the regulators down in Washington, got together and put the exchange back together well enough that they could trade 3 billion shares the following Monday, and it was a 700-point down day. The fact that happened so quickly was truly remarkable and was symbolic in very important ways as well. I mean, the fact that the financial center could come back so quickly and say, listen, we'll take our lumps, whatever they are, but we're going to trade. That, in my mind, was a phenomenal event, and we'll be talking, in fact, to Dick tonight on the program. So.
I can think of 4 or 5 mean things I'd like to say to you, but today's not today. So.
Well, I'm sure you have more than that.
Could you call tomorrow? Thanks for taking.
I don't feel right during the week unless I get a abuse heaped on me by you.
Bludgeoning, right?
Yeah, because it's whether I deserve it or not, it is my daily or weekly beating. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sure thing.
Ron and Santa from CNBC here on the Imus Morning program. Governor George Pataki is coming up. The business report is sponsored by the New York Stock Exchange. They've opted not to run a commercial today, but
despite a security alert that whipsawed Wall Street, stocks finished mostly higher yesterday. Dow Jones up 83 points. Crazy Al Greenspan will be speaking on Capitol Hill today, scheduled to testify in front of the House Budget Committee this morning at 10. Usually Eastern Time, usually when he speaks, his comments command the undivided attention of the financial community, but today Greenspan's testimony comes at almost the exact time the President will be addressing the United Nations about Iraq. Is he address the United Nations today or tomorrow? It's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow.
So, well, Dave, of course.
Well, I think Greenspan's testimony is tomorrow.
Well, according to all of this information I have here, it's this morning at 10 a.m., but I can't believe that that's the case.
I think it's Thursday.
Dave is just really an idiot.
I'll double check for you, man.
Just ask Dave if he's drunk or what. So, 22 after the hour.
I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you. And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Time for another Imus Away healthcare highlight from the Hackensack University Medical Center. The Metropolitan Area's preeminent hospital for executive health assessment. The simple executive decision about your good health may be one of the most important you'll ever make for peace of mind and continued personal success. And just, well, you got to know what condition your condition's in, baby.
That's it.
It involves scheduling only one day of your time for an executive health assessment examination at Hackensack University Medical Center. At the end of just one day, you'll have the results of the most comprehensive physical assessment available. Totally private and convenient. This discreet VIP exam is designed so it doesn't hassle you. Your total comfort. And you'll find out there's anything wrong with you. You need to know that. Or maybe you don't want to know. But if you do want to know, 201-996-3166. Enjoy life every day with Fujifilm. Now they've made it even easier with their newest digital camera, the FinePix S602 Zoom. This sleek new generation digital camera features an auto or manual focus, a 6x zoom, faster shooting, including continual shooting, and its Super CCD offers the highest color quality levels today. So go ahead, capture life every day with the new FinePix S602 Zoom that makes taking pictures easier and better. Fujifilm.com to find out more about this new product and other Fujifilm imaging products. Fujifilm, the official film of the Imus in the Morning program. Visit Fujifilm.com. They are a corporate sponsor, sustaining corporate sponsor, which is really very important. They spend almost $100,000 a year that pays for the T1 lines that enables me to broadcast this hideous program when we're out at the Imus Ranch for kids with cancer. Very good of them, I think.
Your son hit you up for a 3-digit price pair of sneakers. Your daughter really, really needed that cute little purse. Well, now it's your turn, because at BMW of Bayside, you can drive a low-mileage, certified pre-owned BMW at special lease prices and financing as low as 3.9%. It's the ultimate driving machine. All have passed a stringent inspection, all come with balance of 6-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and Bayside's exclusive free loaner car program. For only $199 a month, lease a 1997 328 IS with a sunroof, onboard computer, and more, just $199. See ad in Sunday's New York Times, only at BMW of Bayside, 247-21 Northern Boulevard. Call 718-229-4400 or www.bmwbayside.com. Close in 24-month lease with $39.19 due at inception. Total monthly payments $47.76. VIN number ET34767 with 58K miles. 3.9 APR financing on select models up to 60 months, subject to primary lender approval.
Back in Brooklyn, in my old neighborhood of Canarsie, everybody had a nickname. Mikey Flowers, because he owned a flower shop. Johnny Parakeets, because he kept birds. And Jimmy Bag of Donuts, because he always had a donut in his hand. My friend Bo Deedle named me Joey Pots and Pans, because I knew my way around the kitchen. But everything I know about cooking, I learned from my mother. She taught me how to do the right thing. to use only the finest ingredients. So that's all that goes into Joey Pots and Pans pasta sauce. The ripest Italian tomatoes, the freshest onions, the biggest heads of garlic, and the best extra virgin olive oil. My mission is to bring you the flavor of Italy combined with the taste of New York, direct from my mother's stove all the way to your kitchen. So do the right thing for your family by doing the right thing for your pasta. Give them both the quality, freshness, and authentic homemade taste of Joey Pots and Pans pasta sauce. Not for nothing, but this sauce didn't just fall off a truck. It's the real deal. You don't believe me? Just ask Tommy Treehelpins. He knows what's good. Joey Pots and Pans pasta sauce.
Please visit their website at joeypotsandpans.com and available at Stu Leonard's, Gustides, Stop and Shop, Food Town, ShopRite, Kings, and Grace's Marketplace.
Good morning on Lower Manhattan Highway Patrol. It's starting in Lower Manhattan. West Street's closed. Canal on the northbound side of West Street shut down between Battery Tunnel and Canal Street until 6 p.m. Expect sporadic closures on all streets south at Chambers Street, and watch for frozen zones from the East 50s to Lower Manhattan as all the visiting heads of state travel around for the memorial services and UN's General Assembly. Bagpipes from 4 of the 5 boroughs are now in the ceremonial area, and the Brooklyn-bound pipers are coming off the Brooklyn Bridge. Ramps to and from the FDR Drive at 42nd Street are closed. The drive itself is subject to closure in the UN area, 50th to 42nd Street, and in Lower Manhattan. This report's brought to you by Strauss. Are your tires getting worn? Drive on over to Strauss. Strauss stocks a full selection of quality American-made Cooper tires to fit any vehicle. Strauss Discount Auto. They keep you driving. I'm Lori McNichol for The Fan Highway Patrol.
So this is not a news program, the I'm Mr. Morning program here, 27 after the hour. Though, unfortunately, we have a greater influence and impact throughout the country than we deserve,
Right.
believe me.
Correct.
So, I take political positions that a news person wouldn't take, because I'm not a journalist. Even though, and I think I'm not trying to be self-effacing, certainly, but I do have enormous influence. And it's unfortunate, and I'm not being self-effacing.
I understand.
So having said that, my wife and I, we live on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. I said, did you vote today?
Yeah.
And she said, no. I said, well, it's about 6:30. I said, they moved our polling place back around on 68th Street over to Synagogue. Let's go there and vote for, sock it in on Pataki. And she said, well, he doesn't need us to vote for him now.
Yeah.
Not now. And I said, well, because I didn't understand about who's the goon running against him?
Golisano.
Oh, he's annoying. But so would it have helped had we voted for Pat Tackey? No, it wouldn't.
No.
Which is what we would have done.
Right.
That's the only 2 people in our building and on the Upper West Side who would have. But anyway, having said all that, here is the governor of New York State, George Pataki. Good morning, Governor Pataki.
Good morning, Don. Nice being on with you this morning.
So what do you
should have voted.
Well, it's we ordinarily do, and we take the responsibility to vote seriously. But what did you think when you woke up this morning?
Well, I can't help but think of a year ago. It was a beautiful September 11th, and then out of that beauty came the worst nightmare I've ever experienced in my lifetime. And I think it's important today. It's sad and it's difficult, but I think it's important that we think back and never forget what happened and never forget the heroes we lost.
Did you, I should know this, I don't, so I'll ask you. What do you think ought to be done down there?
To me, the most important thing is a permanent memorial. The commercial considerations, the economic considerations, I think they have to take a secondary role to making sure the memorial is permanent and appropriate and soaring. I'm reading the Gettysburg Address this morning, and President Lincoln talked about hallowed ground and making sure that we consecrate it. And I think Ground Zero is hallowed ground. It's the final resting place for more than 1,000 New Yorkers who will never be brought home. So I just think that for ourselves, for the families, for those we lost, and for the tens of thousands, the hundreds of thousands of people who will visit that site, that the memorial is the single most important part of it.
Is the media coverage appropriate? I mean, I'm not the person who's asked that. I mean, I was watching Brokaw the other night on the NBC Nightly News. That was one of his segments, was what's too much, and I often talk back to the television, which maybe you do as well. And I thought, well, what are we supposed to do?
Well, I think it is appropriate, and I think it's important. This is the worst tragedy, the worst attack ever to take place against American civilians, and I think it's important that people pause and reflect and remember. Obviously, you can't turn on the TV without seeing some symbols of September 11th or remembrance, but you don't have to turn on the television. And I know everybody is dealing with this in their own way. Some will just turn away and reflect in their own way. Others will look for every bit of information they can get. But the fact is that we cannot forget what happened a year ago, and I just think it's extremely important that, particularly today, people do pause at 8:46, and then again at the time the other plane hit and when the towers came down, and say a silent prayer and reflect for the people we lost. And also, we should be very proud of the way New Yorkers responded. This is a combination of sadness, but also of pride, because I don't think anybody in America looks at New Yorkers the same way today as they did a year ago. They look at us as stronger and more capable of sacrifice and acting together in times of crisis. And I think we should be proud of how New Yorkers handled September 11th.
31 at the hour, talking with New York's Governor George Pataki, who will be reading the Gettysburg Address today at Ground Zero, and in a view of me and my wife, the governor, of course, being a Lincoln-esque figure, it seems entirely appropriate. I've really done a turnaround on you, haven't I?
You really have, and I'm very grateful. You know, notwithstanding the fact you have no influence at all, as you were saying earlier in the show, I'm extremely grateful to have you and your wife saying kind things about me.
I've seen the lights.
Better late than never.
You know, I've talked to a number of people, Brokaw, Dan, rather, others, about the fact that the people in this country have not been really asked to do much at all other than to go live their normal lives and go to Disney World. And I'm not being sarcastic, and I know both you and Mayor Giuliani urged us all, particularly those of us who live here in New York, to get back to a normal life when it was appropriate to do that, to settle us all down. But did you get to the feeling that the people in this country, all over this country, are waiting to be asked to do something?
I do get that sense. I think there is a feeling of patriotism and a greater awareness of the fact that the freedoms that make us strong also make us vulnerable. And we learned a lot. And one of the lessons is that after 200 years of being able to depend on being thousands of miles and separated by oceans from troubled spots, there is no such thing in the 21st century as separation. We are as vulnerable as virtually any people. We also learned that, you know, the freedoms we take for granted, the right of you to have this radio show and for people to speak freely and have free elections and freedom of worship, things that make us strong, are things that others in the world detest and want to take from us. So I think the American people are more aware of what unites us and the vulnerability we have as a free people, and are prepared to step forward to do whatever it takes to defend those freedoms.
My wife asked me last night if I thought it was safe to send our son to school today. It goes to school in Manhattan. And I said I think it's as safe today as it is any other day.
I think that's right. You know, there is the alert out, but I've spoken with Governor Ridge and Secretary Ashcroft just last night again, and they both say there are no threats, no specific threats against any target in New York. It's just that we are, as we've seen, a symbol of America, and there are those who want to destroy America, so New York becomes inherently vulnerable. So we have to be vigilant. We have to have a high level of security, but the most important thing is to go about our lives. Let our kids go to school, go to the movies, go out to the theater, go to restaurants, and help the businesses that are still struggling a year later because global travel is significantly down. You know, the greatest weapon that these barbarians, these criminals have against us is fear. And it's understandable when there are specific threats that people would have that. But there's no specific threat against New York, and we cannot let them to use that fear to take away our confidence in the freedoms that we have.
In the immediate aftermath of September 11th, President Bush promised New York City and New York State, I forget what it was, $20 billion.
$20 billion, that's right.
Have we gotten that?
We've gotten more than $20 billion allocated. It's, I think it's in excess of $21 billion for the reconstruction and renewal and building, and another 4 to 5 or even greater $1 billion to help the families with their losses. So we've gotten tremendous help from Washington, from the President, and from Congress, and we're grateful for that. But to be absolutely honest, the cost of rebuilding, and that the economic consequences to New York are far greater than that, and it's still going to be difficult, and we will be requesting additional support, I'm sure, as we go forward.
Do you have a position on what we ought to do about Iraq?
I think the president is in the process of making a very strong case that this regime is not just a rogue regime, but one that has no qualms about attacking whoever they feel like. And when you think back, Don, the most sophisticated weapon these terrorists had a year ago was a box cutter. And if this dictator over there is developing nuclear capability, chemical or biological capability, and as I was hearing over the weekend, he's working on the ability to try to deliver it with drones or artillery or rockets, then I think we cannot sit back and just wait for the next incident to occur. We have to do everything we can to protect ourselves. So I'm waiting to hear what the president says tomorrow at the UN. I think it will be very important. But as you said earlier, I think the American people are ready. The American people understand that we are in a state of war against terror and prepared to take whatever steps the government, the president, ultimately decide we have to do to protect ourselves.
But barring establishing any link between Saddam Hussein, Iraq, and what happened on September 11th, what evidence do we have that whatever he develops, he intends to use against us?
Well, I don't know that. I don't know what evidence the government has. You know, I'm not privy to their classified information. But if you look,
they ought to give us some indication, shouldn't they?
Well, I think they should give us some indication. But take a look at what they've already done. I mean, during the Gulf War, Israel was not a combatant, and they just launched missile after missile at innocent civilian populations against a country that wasn't even involved in the coalition against them. They used, we believe, and I think I've read with definitive proof, they've used biological and chemical weapons against their own people in trying to suppress some of the uprisings against his dictatorship. And I think we've learned that if people are willing to do that against their own people, they certainly wouldn't have any qualms to do it against someone who they detest as they do America as the great Satan. So I think it's a pretty safe assumption that this is a person who has used these types of weapons and wouldn't have any qualms about using them against us.
What time today will you be reading the Gettysburg Address down there?
8:47, Don. 8:46, of course, is the minute of silence, and I think it's important that people pause and reflect, and then right at the beginning we'll start with the Gettysburg Address.
Well, we'll try to carry that. I mean, I'm sure everybody else will as well. But thanks for taking the time to talk with us this morning, Governor. I appreciate it.
Good to be on with you, and thank you for your kind words.
You're quite welcome. Governor George Pataki, here on the Obviously Winning program. Well, I've done a 180 on him. Well, I never was actually.
Whoa. You weren't what?
Well, I mean, I used to give Bernadette Castro a bad time about him because she was such a rabid supporter of his. So. And I like to annoy Fred Dicker from the New York Post because, you know, he's always looking to hammer poor Governor Pataki, but whatever. I do like the guy, so sue me.
That is a statesman right there.
Yes.
You won't find him with, some intern.
No, you won't. No. One would hope. We don't have any evidence at this point.
Not now.
20 minutes now, almost till the hour.
Major World of Long Island City announces the You Pick the Down Payment sale. For a limited time, if you qualify, you choose whatever down payment you want to pay. That's right. You select the down payment amount.
Hey, Billy, how much money you got in your piggy bank?
I don't know, Daddy. Why?
During this sale, choose from over 2,000 pre-owned vehicles in stock at Major World. Then drive off with the car you want after paying the down payment you want. And most of our cars can be had for less than half their original price. Like a 98 Altima for only $69.95. Or a 99 Voyager for only $79.95. And remember, you pick the amount of your down payment. Major World will pretty much take whatever you can get your hands on.
Daddy, what are you doing with that hammer?
Billy, step away from the piggy bank.
Minimum down payment of $29 applies. Monthly payments may vary based upon severity of credit history. Remember, you pick the down payment. Now at Major World, Northern Boulevard at 43rd Street, Long Island City. For information, call 1-800-MAJOR-AUTO. That's 1-800-MAJOR-AUTO.
Olympic sprinters are fast. Cheetahs are fast. The Concorde is fast. Workplace gossip is faster. Whisper to a colleague that you're looking for a new job, and aeronautical engineers will be unable to calculate the speed with which that rumor blazes through the office. That's fast. It's human nature to blab, and workplace gossip begs to be blabbed. It might as well be disseminated via company-wide emails. So when it comes time to investigate whether or not there's a better job for you out there, you can check into the Witness Protection Program or check out CareerBuilder.com, the job network that understands job seeking should happen with the utmost discretion. That's why we allow you to investigate opportunities without having to post your resume first for the whole world to see. Be smart. Be in control. Career Builder. Be one.
Look for a job without blowing your cover. Just go to CareerBuilder.com, find a job that's right for you, and then apply in complete confidentiality.
Sports fans everywhere, are you noticing a small tire starting to form around your midsection? Or have years of drinking beers formed a big tire years ago? I've got a solution for your problem. Trim Spa. Trim Spa, the latest advancement in weight loss technology. The patented Trim Spa was formulated to optimize your body's natural fat-fighting process. Face it, our metabolisms just aren't the same anymore. As we get older, we eat the same or more, but our bodies burn less fat. Trim Spa can A, destroy ugly fat while keeping hard-earned muscle mass, crush food cravings so you don't overeat, and boost energy to get you through your hell days. Guys, don't catch baseball player syndrome. When a baseball player is in his prime, he's fit and in shape. Have you ever seen a baseball player 5 years after he's retired? Fat cheeks and a big old gut. Food's gotten the best of him. Trim Spa can prevent the weight gain. Watching the games on Sunday, eating too many chips and wings, Trim Spa will help decrease your appetite. It's 110% satisfaction guaranteed when you order at 1-800-TRIM-SPA or TrimSpa.com. That's 1-800-TRIM-SPA. Trim Spa works from all angles to get you fit and trim once again. Start getting stares from all the ladies once again. Call now. 1-800-TRIM-SPA.
This is Hannah. She was a good girl today.
I had my fish.
So her mom gave her an Eskimo pie, the original ice cream bar.
I cleaned my room. I ate my spinach.
Hannah's glad Eskimo pie still covers their creamy vanilla ice cream with the same world-famous chocolate coating they've used for 80 years.
I'll give you a hug if you give me another Eskimo pie. I can't tell a lie. I love my Eskimo pie. Get it?
When the Beverage Tasting Institute set out to find the best-tasting vodka in the world, they gathered over 80 of the finest vodkas available. They awarded points based on smoothness, nose, and taste. In the end, the clear winner was Grey Goose Vodka, imported from France. Grey Goose Vodka is made with a choice selection of grains and naturally filtered mineral water. Smooth and silky with a clean, crisp taste. Grey Goose Vodka is the world's best-tasting vodka. Grey Goose Vodka is 40% alcohol by volume. Imported by City Frank Importing Company, New Rochelle. Must be 21 or older to enjoy. Drink responsibly.
17 till the hour here in the I'm Showing program. So I've mentioned to Warner Wolf, broadcast from Rockefeller Center yesterday, and I said Sid had shown up and just apparently to eat breakfast.
Yes, it appeared that way.
Snore some free food.
Yeah.
Breaking stereotypes.
So I think he wanted to be on, I think.
Oh, yeah.
As opposed to showing his support for the program, which is what my view. I didn't get the feeling he wanted to be on at all, did you?
Oh, yeah.
Bernie?
Well, it is Sid Rosenberg.
Yeah.
But he'd like to show his support, and I'm sure he would have loved to have gotten on.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he has an ulterior motive for everything he does. He's Sid Rosenberg.
Yeah.
That's why we love him.
He and Joey, what's the guy's name?
Pete. Jody
McDonald got in a heated argument the other day.
Oh, really?
It spilled out into the newsroom.
No kidding.
Oh, wow.
And we thought it was going to be a Mike and a Mad Dog-like situation, but apparently not.
It's too bad.
Well, they're arguing over something. Like Keith Hernandez, I think, if you can imagine.
Oh. Not much to argue about.
I mean, Keith Hernandez is about one notch up from being a waiter. So. Anyway, here's Warner Wolf with a little sports stuff, and then we're going to talk. Of course, Warner was on with us last year, providing dramatic account of what was going on, because Warner's apartment is 11 or 12 blocks from the site of the former World Trade Center, with an unobstructed view of the towers.
Yeah.
And
some raw eyewitness testimony there.
Yeah.
I looked at him this morning when I got up.
Yeah.
Looked out there. Where they used to be.
Yeah.
So baseball last night, the Giants beat the Dodgers, so this is great. 18 games left, the wild card, the Giants lead the Dodgers by 1. Just like the old days, like you said yesterday. 51, Giants-Dodgers, 62, Giants-Dodgers.
Yep.
It's good. Arizona beat the Padres. Kurt Schilling won his 23rd. So Schilling and Johnson are 44 and 10. The rest of the Diamondbacks are 46 and 46. But, of course, once you get into those playoffs, You're talking, well, first of all, the first round, 3 out of 5 is already 2-0.
Yeah.
And then you got to figure they'll pitch 5 of the 7 games in the World Series if it goes that far.
Man.
So, I mean, that's it. If you've got 2 Giants pitchers, that's it.
Yeah.
So,
Mariano Rivera, who used to be just automatic for the Yankees,
is not automatic anymore.
That's over.
Yeah. No. But you know what's... Hey, look, that's the life of a relief pitcher. You know, relief pitchers, unless you're a Hoyt Wilhelm with a knuckleball or Wilbur Wood, you don't last 10 years.
No.
Because you come in there and fire that ball. Mm-hmm. If you get 6 great years out of a relief pitcher, a fireballer, that's terrific.
Starting to look like Chichi Rodriguez already. It's over.
How about Todd Hundley? He's been fined by the Cubs. Why? Because he refused to take the Cubs team picture. He refused to show up and sit with the Cubs for the picture.
Why?
Well, Cubs are 21 games out.
Oh, I see.
I'm not associating with those guys.
You want a bag over his head, that's
One of the great names in the history of baseball has been recalled from the minors, I-Man. The Cleveland Indians have recalled outfielder Coco Crisp from Buffalo. Coco Crisp. Crisp hit .246 with the Indians in 14 games in August before they sent him down. 2 good old boys have been fined. Ricky Rudd was fined $5,000, put on probation for the rest of the year, and Larry Lackey, also an employee of the Robert Yates Racing Crew, fined $10,000 and put on probation for the rest of the year.
What'd they do?
Well, following Saturday's Monte Carlo 400 in Richmond, in which Rudd finished 7th, Lackey punched Rudd in the eye after arguing over the engines. Rudd then threw a water bottle that hit Lackey in the face. NASCAR calls their behavior detrimental to stock car racing.
It is 12 minutes now till the hour. Here on the Iverson Wayne program, please welcome to the program now the mayor of New York City. Well, he'll always be the mayor first.
Amen.
Most
That's
people
right.
are concerned. The former mayor, Rudolph Giuliani. Good morning, Mayor Giuliani. How are you?
Morning, Don. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. How did you feel when you woke up this morning?
Oh, it was a day that I guess I just hope was over. You know, because of the idea of living through all the memories that we're going to have to live through of the people that we lost, the people that I know that are gone, all the families that have been hurt. And then I think the same thing happened maybe 1,000 times to me after September 11. And then I end up with this feeling of pride in how brave they were and how terrific they were. You know, how they were able to save so many people in such a short period of time.
How are you going to feel going back? I know you've been there many, many times, but going back down to the ground, what they call the ground zero this morning.
Well, I'm already down. I'm already down there. So I had when I went past it, I had many times when I'm here, that's 12, 13, 14 times a day. Usually, my first feeling is anger. My first feeling is this shouldn't have happened. Something like this shouldn't happen again. And there's no excuse for terrorism. I mean, maybe we made the mistake in the past of having this moral equivalency, and you look for the root causes of terrorism, and you know what are their political causes. The reality is, once you slaughter innocent human beings and you take their lives for no reason, you've lost any justness for your political cause. And the only answer is to end global terrorism. And we need to recommit ourselves to that, because in the last couple of months, we're losing that.
I know you wrote an article in Time magazine essentially suggesting that we should not rebuild that area down there, make it a memorial. Has there been any final decision made about that?
There hasn't. I believe it should be a soaring, grand, beautiful memorial that goes up in the sky and create something permanent. The library, museum, live what happened, and not just build the current. And it should be treated that way. And I think, we're just going to cut because we need office space.
We're getting about every fifth word. We have a bad phone connection.
I'm sorry.
Mayor Giuliani, I know you got a lot to do today. It's very gracious of you to call us this morning. Thanks very much, and take care of yourself.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mayor Rudolph Giuliani here on the Irish Morning Program, 9 minutes to the hour.
Can one advertised lease payment suit everyone? No. Instead of a one-size-fits-all cookie-cutter lease, Westchester BMW will tailor-make a lease with financing through BMW Financial Services. How many months? How many miles? How much down? Do we work harder to customize a lease plan for your new 2002, 3, 5, or 7 Series BMW? Yes. And that is the difference between a BMW and a Westchester BMW. Exit 4 off 287 and at westchesterbmw.com. It's just plain huge. Westchester BMW's certified pre-owned center. Huge. One of the largest selections of certified pre-owned BMWs anywhere. Come see or check the total inventory at westchesterbmw.com to find the exact BMW you want. And that's huge. Special lease and finance rates available now. Westchester BMW's certified pre-owned center is on Route 9A off exit 2 of 287. You can see the difference between a BMW and a Westchester BMW.
Honey, you know those old windows in the living room?
Yeah, they're in worse shape than I am. None of them closes right. And I need a bank to finance our heating bills.
Well, there should be a store where all kinds of windows would be on display, full size, with an expert salesperson to help us, who might even recommend a reliable contractor.
Sort of like a window paradise.
Yes, or a window-rama.
Window-rama. We're your store for windows, doors, and skylights, featuring Anderson Windows. It's here that you'll find energy-efficient windows from Anderson. 7262, or visit our website at windowrama.com.
I have arthritis in my knees. My son used jointritis. He told me, he said, Mom, you ought to try jointritis. He said it stops arthritis pain. And I went to get some jointritis, and it has worked wonders for me, just like it did for him. And when my hands start hurting me when I'm crocheting, I rub it on my hands. It has been a lifesaver for me. It stops arthritis pain.
Here's great news for arthritis pain sufferers who haven't tried jointritis, the #1 topical pain reliever in drugstores today. From September 8th through the 14th, many stores will be featuring low prices on all jointritis products. So remember to visit your store this week, September 8th through the 14th, for great savings on jointritis. Jointritis, with the medicine doctors trust to help stop arthritis pain. Plus triple skin conditioners, lanolin, glucosamine, and chondroitin. Use as directed for hours of relief when your minor arthritis pain flares up. Your results may vary. Jointritis.
It stops the pain.
Gold Formula Beautiful Hair Breck is back.
When I saw the Breck shampoo bottle on the shelf at the store, I was really surprised. It was just the way I remembered it. The classic bottle, the Gold Formula. Of course I bought a bottle, and I couldn't wait to get home and try it. It was amazing. The incredible Breck lather that I always loved, and the unforgettable fragrance. But most of all, Breck left my hair feeling clean, soft, and manageable, just like it used to. Beautiful Hair Breck is back.
Try Gold Formula Beautiful Hair Breck, and your hair can be beautiful too.
If you're not taking Posture D, you could be taking the wrong calcium. The latest medical research confirms that you need phosphorus as well as calcium for healthy bones. The problem is, over 50 million American women don't get enough phosphorus daily. That's why you should know about Posture D, the only leading calcium supplement that contains the calcium and phosphorus you need for healthy bones. So switch to Posture D, the right calcium. Posture D from SmartCare. Nutrition above and beyond the minimum.
Hey, Giants fans, your home for every New York Giants game is The Fan. Be listening this Sunday as Big Blue meets Marshall Faulk and the St. Louis Rams. Game time is 4:05. We'll pick up the action right after the Mets at Expos. Join me, Bob Papa, along with Dave Jennings and Dick Lynch for all the play-by-play here on your flagship station for Giants football, Sports Radio 66 WFAN New York.
Is there any hope that a moderate leadership will emerge in a Palestinian society in which children are recruited to be suicide bombers? 65% of Israelis polled support evacuating the settlements. Why hasn't it happened? And what would it take? Will the U.S. oust Saddam Hussein in time before Iraq uses a weapon of mass destruction? How are American Jews responding to all of this? What can we do? Read the foreword and keep up with the important news affecting all of us. Keep up with Jewish tradition and what's new and changing. Enjoy award-winning coverage of the arts, politics, and social issues. More than ever, we need to stay in touch. And there's no better way than reading the foreword, the nation's Jewish newspaper. Try it for 4 weeks free. You'll then be billed $24.95 for another 26 issues. If you're not satisfied, write cancel on the bill and keep the first 4 issues free. Call now for the foreword. 800-253-7800. That's 800-253-7800.
Fear, uncertainty, anxiety. These are emotions we've all struggled with recently. I made all kinds of excuses for why I couldn't go places and do things. I remember feeling like I couldn't catch my breath and being so aware of my heart pounding that I was sure I was having a heart attack. I felt like I couldn't control my fears, my thoughts, and my nervousness. Is this you too? I'm Lucinda Bassett, founder of the Midwest Center for Stress and Anxiety. I struggled for 20 years with anxiety and depression, and I finally found my way out of the vicious cycle. If I can help myself, I can help you help yourself. Don't let anyone tell you you have to learn to live with anxiety and depression and that medication is the only answer. I urge you to call now for my free tape and a personal letter with tips on coping. No matter what's going on around you, you can control how you're affected by it. Please call 1-800-ANXIETY. Someone who understands is waiting to take your call now. 1-800-ANXIETY.
Hi, I'm Bo Bridges. For over 75 years, Daily Word from Unity has shared positive, inspirational thoughts with people throughout the world. The Daily Word thought for the day is inner strength. Inner strength is both powerful and gentle and enables you to overcome all limitations.
Do you need help in making sense of today's world? Unity would like to send you 3 months of Daily Word free. Call today and start making sense of life one day at a time. Call 1-866-87-UNITY or visit dailyword.com.
Hey, Brandy. Where are you? Wow, that's too bad. Gotta go, Brandy. I'm missing the show.
While your friends are out together having fun, you're here at home, grounded, because you smoked weed and your parents found out. Lose your parents' trust, you can kiss your social life. Goodbye. Trust, the anti-drug.
Brandy, you're not on the phone, are you?
Sponsored by the Office of National Drug Control Policy in Partnership for a Drug-Free America.
Here's great news for arthritis pain sufferers who haven't tried Jointritis, the #1 topical pain reliever in drugstores today. From September 8th through the 14th, many stores will be featuring low prices on all Jointritis products. So remember to visit your store this week for great savings on Jointritis. Jointritis, with a medicine doctors trust to help stop arthritis pain. Plus triple skin conditioners, lanolin, glucosamine, and chondroitin. Use as directed for hours of relief when your minor arthritis pain flares up. Jointritis stops your pain.
There's no such thing as a free lunch. Free installation of XM satellite radio? That's a different story. Pick up XM at Circuit City today, and they'll pick up the installation. It's a great time to get XM's 100 digital channels, many commercial free, and it's easy to add XM to your existing car stereo and still get your AM and FM stations. Free installation ends September 30th. Visit your local Circuit City today. Beyond AM, beyond FM. XM satellite radio. Required basic subscription and hardware sold separately. Activation fee also required. Free installation available for standard installations only.
Hi, I'm Ivan Simonis, WFAN in New York and Infinity Broadcasting Station. Time for some local news. And here with that is Chuck McCoy. Good morning, Charles.
Good morning, I-Man. The sounds of bagpipes broke the pre-dawn darkness in New York City as the first anniversary of the 9/11 attacks was marked. Firefighters and police led 5 processions, all headed to Ground Zero, 1 procession from each borough of the city. Mayor Bloomberg said the solemn procession represented a call to duty that saved so many and yet cost so much.
One of the reasons we're trying to have a very understated, quiet, serious, solemn ceremony is because I think people really do have to grieve by themselves.
Mary Ellen Gordon, who was rescued from Ground Zero after the attacks, came to thank the men and women who saved her.
I came out this morning at 5 a.m. because I was at the World Trade Center when the building came down, and somebody came in and helped me and rescued me and helped me to get out of the debris, and my heart goes out to the fire department, to the victims, to the families, to everyone here.
The Ground Zero ceremony will begin 45 minutes from right now at 8:46 Eastern Time, starting with a moment of silence, the moment the first hijacked jet struck the North Tower. The official city ceremony is expected to last a little longer than 102 minutes, the time it took the Twin Towers to fall. As mentioned, there will be the moment of silence at 8:46 when the first plane struck, another moment of silence at 9:03 when the second plane hit, and then another at 9:57 when the first tower fell, and then at 10:29 when the second tower fell.
What are we going to do at 8:46?
I don't know.
Moment of silence.
Oh, okay.
Well, we're going to observe that.
What does a moment mean? A minute?
Yeah, generally. Yeah, usually one minute of silence.
Correct. We're going to have a minute of silence?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't your transmitter go off the air if you do that?
I don't know.
It won't go off. It'll flash. I don't think we'll go off, though.
Okay.
Starting with investment banker Gordon Amoth. Then Mayor Giuliani will begin the recitation of the names of the dead, those who perished, and their kin will carry flowers deep into the pit itself. Actor Robert De Niro, Secretary of State Powell, and 183 others, including relatives and religious leaders, will all read the rest, then, of the 2,801 names.
It's a good idea.
And then finally, New Jersey Governor Jim McGreevey will read from the Declaration of Independence. 7 o'clock tonight, city and world leaders will gather in Battery Park to light an eternal flame near the Sphere, which was the massive sculpture that stood in the plaza there of the Trade Center itself. Weather, partly cloudy, windy, the high today near 80, tonight clear, mid-50s, tomorrow mostly sunny, low 70s, and Friday mostly sunny, the upper 70s. Now it is 73 degrees at 3 minutes past the hour.
Every day you get up, you go to work, you come home. But you are not a robot. You are a dynamic and marketable entity with certain inalienable rights. You have the right to walk to work with a spring in your step. You have the right to work for a boss you respect. You have the right to work to live, not live to work. You have the right to shake hands with your potential. You have the right to say TGIM. Thank God it's Monday. You have the right to reinvent yourself. And a good place to get right with your career is CareerBuilder.com, where 13 different search criteria make it easy for you to find exactly the job that's right for you and eliminate the ones that aren't. Because it's a free country, and you're a free agent. Be smart. Be in control. Career Builder. Be one.
Exercise your rights. Go to CareerBuilder.com and target your search with 13 different filters. Find the jobs you want. Weed out the ones you don't. CareerBuilder.com.
Great news for all of you living in Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, or Lower Manhattan. The nation's most experienced laser surgeon, Dr. Joseph Della Russo, who has performed over 28,000 laser vision procedures, is proud to announce the opening of another Della Russo Laser Vision Center, conveniently located in Brooklyn Heights, 1 block from the courthouse and all public transportation. He is the only surgeon in the tri-state area offering IntraLASIK, the most precise and latest advancement in LASIK safety. IntraLASIK is the first and only no-blade, all-laser method of vision correction. No-blade IntraLASIK means no blade-related complications. Many patients not previously qualified may now be safely treated. Call Dr. Joseph Della Russo at 1-800-EYE-CARE Extension 4 to schedule a free consultation at his Brooklyn, Manhattan, or New Jersey office. Some vision plans accepted. Interest-free financing available. Call 1-800-EYE-CARE Extension 4 or visit DellaRusso.com. That's DellaRusso.com.
5 minutes at the hour here on the Imus in the Morning program. I was over at the Dr. Zweifek's office yesterday. He's an eye doctor. Got one I go to, and have for years. And he's got some great people that work for him. And for lack of a better way to describe it, a charming young man. And there's a woman, too, who works in the office from the Dominican Republic, a huge baseball fan. And we were talking about today, because I was getting a glaucoma deal where they have to sit there in a waiting room in your eyes, you can't see anything, so that's fine. And he said, this kid said, I didn't lose anybody, a loved one or relative, or, he said, I don't, he said, but there was a person in my building, a guy who I'd just done the laundry with like 3 days before this all happened. And I said, there was a woman in my building who I don't know, and probably wouldn't recognize her if I met her in the elevator. But nevertheless, everybody else in the building knows her, and, who lost her husband, and she has, I believe, 2 kids. And so he had obviously a much stronger connection to the person in his building than I do in mine, although everyone in the building I live in Manhattan knows the woman, and she's a her husband worked for Cantor Fitzgerald. She's a delightful woman, and I think she's a lawyer. So the point of this is that in some way or another, you can almost, it's the old 6 degree of separation deal. You can go across the country and everybody's got some connection.
Yep.
And so you get up this morning and try to figure out how I guess you do. I mean, I was trying to figure out how I felt about everything. I've been trying to figure out how I felt about it. Not that it's important, but I mean, I talk on the radio and some of you listen and whatever. And if you can't get past the lives that were lost and the lives that were changed, just, forever. In addition to the 3,000 or so people who died, all of those families of those people, and those friends of those people, and it starts to get into the thousands of people. And then, as I said, there is some connection to literally everybody in the country.
Oh, certainly.
So it gets into the millions.
If merely in the fact that our country was attacked.
But what it did change is it changed everything.
Yes, it did.
That's what it changed.
Yeah.
It changed everything. So, it is 8 minutes after the hour. Here's our old friend. We used to have him on all the time. And I wonder what happened to him. And it turns out he's on 60 Minutes too, which is an enormously popular television show that
is.
I don't know that I have ever seen.
Really?
But millions of people have.
Sure.
From CBS News, Scott Pelley. Good morning, Mr. Pelley.
Good morning. How are you two?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. And we're going to put together a tape of all of the episodes of 60 Minutes 2 and send it to you.
Yeah.
It'll take a couple of months to get through, but you'll find it fascinating.
Well, I know it's a top 10 show, so I remember Mike Wallace and all of them grumbling about putting it on, and then I know Mel wanted to do it. We're talking about Mr. Karmazin over at CBS, and turned out to be a pretty good idea, didn't it? And then we thought you were crazy leaving the White House to go do this, but it turns out you weren't. So.
Well, it worked out pretty well. That must be why you stopped calling me, because you thought I was crazy.
No, we didn't. We thought you'd died. So we always looked at you as the heir apparent to Dan Rather, and that was, much as we supported David Gregory at NBC News in his quest to become the White House correspondent, in which he has pretty much distinguished himself in that effort. But anyway, to your interview with President Bush tonight, and you're the only one who gets to interview him tonight. What do you have to say?
Well, I was surprised by this interview, frankly. He clearly feels as passionately about September 11th today as he did a year ago. There are points in this interview where he is pounding the desk angry. And there are other parts of the interview where he just becomes very tearful when he remembers the victims in New York City that he met at the end of the week, in particular the children whose fathers had been lost, and the president said he realized at that time that their fathers had been lost, and he was just trying to give them a little bit of hope. In fact, Imus, in one part of the interview, he talks about a little boy who handed him a picture of the little boy's father dressed in his firefighter uniform. And the president said, look, I've been briefed on Ground Zero. I knew what the reality was, and I knew that man was lost. And he signs the picture, and he hands the picture back to the little boy, and the president remembers saying, you tell your dad, he won't believe you met me. You show him this picture when he gets out of there, and you tell him you met the President of the United States. And, he said, what could I do? I was just trying to give these kids some hope, even though it was a hopeless situation. And it's that kind of thing in the interview that I think people will find interesting and unexpected.
Scott Pelley's interview with President George Bush airs tonight on 60 Minutes 2 at 8 p.m. on CBS. Did you get into any kind of discussion about, I've talked to a number of people about it, Dan Rather, Tom Brokaw, others, about, and I'm talking to George Pataki and some other people, about the sense that many of us have that the people of the country are waiting to be asked to do something, and that the administration and our leaders are grappling to come up with something to ask us to do other than to go to Disneyland. Did you broach that at all with him? Or?
Well, I think one of the fears that the president has is that today, notwithstanding, that as we get farther from September 11th, the pain begins to dull, and he doesn't want that to happen. He wants the American people to feel the way he does, and he tells us in the interview, look, my job now as President of the United States is to remind everybody every day that we are at war, and that we're at war all around the world. We are conducting operations in secret in places you don't even know about. And the American people shouldn't forget that. And I think, at least from the president's perspective, that's one thing that he wants the American people to do, is just to remember where we are and not forget, even after a year, that we have soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines in harm's way, not just in Afghanistan, but in many other places as well.
I wonder if he regrets, or any of them regret, making Osama bin Laden the primary focus of all of this. And then I remarked to Deidre Imus, who's my wife, I said, well, here's where we are. We still haven't determined the fate of Osama bin Laden, either whether he's alive or whatever. She said, well, if it were easy, it's not easy. And I said, well, if it were easy, I'd do it. But I mean, we either realistically or unrealistically expect our government, to be able to find out where he is and deal with him. And so I guess my question is, I'm beginning to like Brian Williams almost, but I mean, did you get into any of that about how he feels about our inability to determine exactly what happened to Osama bin Laden?
He's frustrated by that. We do talk about the hunt for Osama bin Laden, and he's a little, frankly, in the interview, a little bit annoyed at the question, even though he knew it must have been coming. He says, look, I don't know if he's dead or alive. If he's dead, then somebody else has replaced him, and now we need to go find that person and take him out. I think the beginning of your question, when you said, do I think that they regret making Osama bin Laden the demon here? I think they do now, because the president says in the interview, this is just a whole lot bigger than Osama bin Laden, and he leaves you with the impression that whether he's dead or alive, the president doesn't care a whole lot, because there's a much bigger job to do. He said, look, this is a manhunt, and we're hunting them down one at a time. And we're going to keep doing that throughout the rest of my administration and as far into the future as the eye can see.
If not you, but if we all listen to my friend Maureen Dowd and others prior to September 11th, we pretty much, and if you listen to us, frankly, you pretty much could anticipate that the president was going to be kind of a frat boy presidency in which he was going to just fool around, spend time at the ranch and work out, and that he had a bunch of old fuddy-duddies from his dad's administration who were going to stagger through this administration, but he at least appears to everybody to have been transformed, as does people like Donald Rumsfeld and others. And my question is, does the president think he's been transformed?
The Bushes, President Bush and his father are allergic to introspection.
Yes.
But he is more introspective in this interview, I think, than I've ever seen him. He does admit being changed in large ways and small. He talks about how much closer he is to his family. I think a lot of people feel that way. I certainly do. I'm sure you do as well. We have this gift of awareness now since September 11th about the things that are important to us. But he's also so changed, and the question is so on point. Presidents always come to the White House, every one of them, thinking they're going to change history, and it never fails. History changes them instead. You'll recall that when 9/11 happened, the president had been president for less than 8 months. He had campaigned on the idea of bringing U.S. troops home from entanglements overseas, didn't think we should be in Bosnia, didn't think we should be involved in nation building. And now here we are, after September 11th, on his order, we have troops engaged all around the world, and we are, call it, whatever term you want to call it, we're involved in nation building in Afghanistan in a big way. And everything is different. His outlook on the world is completely changed.
We're talking with Scott Pelley from CBS News. His interview with President Bush airs on 60 Minutes 2 tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Of course, it occurred to me while you and I were talking, I don't imagine the president's own perception of himself that he was a doofus. So, if maybe if I talked to him, I might say, we all thought you were a goofball. You greatly disappointed us by not providing us with this wealth of material that we anticipated. But this is a legitimate question. There are many of us who thought that Vice President Cheney was really going to be the president. But then he went into in the wonderful phrase of Frank Rich from the New York Times, the Halliburton Witness Protection Program. But he hasn't been Vice President Cheney has not been the president, apparently. And my question is, how much does the president actually rely on him?
I think he relies on his advice. You touched on it earlier when the president named his cabinet all this time ago. You'll recall people described them as retreads. Look at all these guys. They're from the president's father's administration. Dick Cheney, Colin Powell, Don Rumsfeld. And they were derided as has-beens. And then you have September 11th happen. And you've got Dick Cheney, Vice President, used to be Secretary of Defense. You got Colin Powell, Secretary of State, used to be Chairman of the Joint Chiefs. You got Don Rumsfeld, who was a Secretary of Defense in a previous administration. Suddenly, all of this experience looks pretty good. I think the president leans on these people, and he tells us in the interview that he leans on these people for their expertise and their advice. The president is a little bit Reagan-esque, if you ask me. In that he sees the world in broad strokes. He sees the big picture. He says, look, my job is to set the strategy. My job is to point the ship. And I let everybody else work on the details of how we get where I think we should go. And in some ways, it's reminiscent of the way President Reagan ran things.
Does the president acknowledge that there's this split in his cabinet over what to do with Iraq? Although if he gets to thinking about it, why wouldn't there be? But does he?
Presidents never acknowledge splits within their own cabinet, and there always are splits within their own cabinet. And you know what? If you ask me, that's a good thing.
You would hope there would be. Yeah, I agree with you.
Absolutely. I mean, if you've got everybody marching in lockstep, you got trouble. But one of the things that's clear from we did 14 interviews with members of the cabinet, the First Lady, the Vice President, to go into this documentary due tonight. And one of the things you get from that is the president likes to hear them argue. He likes to go around the table and hear them debate each other and argue various viewpoints. He likes the give and take.
What if he does as I do with my staff, and that is try to turn them against one another? Probably not, huh? Well, good for you, Scott. Congratulations. I'm happy to hear that you're obviously still working, and it's just my abject ignorance that I wasn't, obviously I was aware of it. But anyway, thank you for taking the time to talk with us this morning. I know you're busy. Good luck tonight, and I guess it's already on tape, so you probably already know how it came out. Anyway, thank you, Scott.
Thank you so much. Good to be with you.
Scott Pelley from CBS News here on the I'm Mr. Morning program. He interviews President Bush tonight on 60 Minutes 2 on CBS. So, I was going to call him a kid. He's not a kid. And he's a nice young man. And
he certainly is. Yeah, a gentleman.
So I don't want to be too stupid and silly today, but I don't know. If we approach 8:46, it's 8:20 now Eastern time. I don't know.
It's terrible. I'm thinking what was going on at this moment a year ago.
I keep thinking, it affected me only in that how I feel about how it affected everybody else. It didn't really change my life much. You almost feel, I don't know that, I guess I do, you feel a little guilty about, because it just so dramatically changed all of these people's lives, and I guess I'm just speaking for myself, I am, but you wish you could do something. Writing a check is easy, and at this point, there've been enough checks written, but I just feel great compassion and empathy for these people. God, it's just, the more you get to thinking about it, and as you do get to thinking about it, and let's talk, I love Boomer Esiason, but I know he appears to be a goofball and all that, but boy, he's really been there for a huge number of these people.
Yeah.
But his observation yesterday about the children who lost these fathers and mothers, that's just
13 of whom are pictured today in the front page of the New York Post special section. A bunch of kids who, a year ago today, they each lost a parent in the World Trade Center. With courage they endure. New York is proud of them. And, of course, that's just a fraction. You know,
all of these observations that I'm making, I recognize are simplistic and lame, but
not necessarily.
But the point is, that it is such a traumatic, life-altering event that, and it changed life. It changed everything for everybody.
Well, absolutely. That you are concerned about the future and what is the potential now for further difficulties, and that is something. I mean, it's on your mind. You don't drive into this city from the west ever through the Lincoln Tunnel without going around the helix that leads to the tunnel, and it forces you to look south down that river, and you do not see the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, and it hits you every day.
And Deirdre and I talk every day about living in Manhattan.
Sure you do.
But
it's understandable.
Unless I just moved to New Mexico full time, I would feel cowardly moving out of Manhattan just simply because.
Well, yeah.
I'm interested in paying all the New York City and New York State taxes, but actually I don't. Actually, I don't care. So, I mean, thank God I can pay them.
Absolutely.
So, anyway.
And withdrawing to New Mexico, you really wouldn't be, escaping anything.
Oh, no, you don't.
No.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, Martin Mosman, Bill Grassi, Donnie Imus,
Sure.
Chicken Jack, all of those people are as concerned about the state of our country as anybody else. It's kind of remarkable, actually. It is 24 after the hour. We'll talk with Daniel, no, not Daniel, Richard Picciotto, who wrote the book Last Man Down, but Daniel Peisner, I guess, Peisner, I don't know how to pronounce. I just wish these people would get names I could pronounce. Probably would help if I weren't a moron. That would help some. Anyway, we'll talk with Mr. Picciotto, who wrote the book Last Man Down. And he was trapped there on the 24th floor, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had a riveting story.
Oh, my
He
God.
was right in the middle of when the building collapsed.
He told it the day well, was he with Louis yesterday? He was probably with Louis, right?
No.
Oh, he was. That was a different situation.
Different situation, correct.
Was. Got a guy we had on yesterday, Louis. What was that? What was his?
Caccioli.
Oh, my God.
What a story. My goodness. And the way he told it, just...
You know, the thing about that guy, he has these guilt feelings, and he told Charles and I off the air that he thought about taking his own life. But that guy is such an inspiration. I hope he understands that.
Yeah.
I mean, all of those people, and that woman who was on, Katrina
Marino.
Those people are a wonderful source of inspiration
for everybody
and strength for every person in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, and as long as they can tell their story, they ought to tell it.
Yeah.
Because that's the role that they have. I mean, they were, in the words of my friend Delbert McClinton, they were a victim of life circumstances.
Absolutely.
But they really can maximize that. And really, that's their purpose now.
Yes, it is.
And so.
And a purpose that they serve well. My goodness.
So as opposed to feeling, I mean, I can understand the feeling of guilt, those kinds of things, but they don't have any control over that. They have to understand they have no control over that. You have to recognize the things in your life that you can control and those that you can't. And you can't.
No.
That was out of your control. It was not a decision that you made. You were there and it happened to you. But
the decision they are making now to tell their stories.
But the impact that both of those people had, just on me and Charles and everybody who was there and people who were listening across the country and watching it. I mean, it's remarkable.
Riveting. Totally.
It is coming up on 27 after the hour.
Imus in the morning. A 20-year-old hatchback stalls in the fast lane.
jackknife rig full of ketchup makes a big stain. Brake lights everywhere, but I don't mind the slow. I'm listening to show tunes on my XM satellite radio. A guy in a black sports car comes and cuts me off. I could care less. I'm listening to uncut hip-hop. 12 miles to go. I'm inching along. But all I can think of is the next free-form jazz song. Take it away, sales guy.
100 digital channels, many commercial-free. Beyond AM, beyond FM. XM satellite radio. XM is the hottest option in new 2003 vehicles, including Chevrolet, Pontiac, GMC, Buick, Oldsmobile, and Cadillac models. Required basic subscription and hardware sold separately. Activation fee also required.
Ines!
Imagine for a moment that you're driving home to let your dog out. You're late, and because your dog needs to go out, you're worried about your new rug, the first nice rug you ever bought, and traffic isn't on your side. Oh yeah, it's also raining really hard, so you're pretty focused. Right now, you've got three things on your mind: new rug, dog waiting, and rain. Which means you're not thinking about your Cooper tires and how well they're performing. And you know what? That's a good thing. You've got enough to worry about. In fact, aside from regular maintenance, the only time you should really be thinking about your tires is when you're buying new ones. That's when you need to think about Cooper. With Cooper, you get confidence, performance, and mileage. And isn't that all that matters? Well, that and your new rug. Cooper Tires. Don't give up a thing.
Buy American-made Cooper tires at Kirk's Tire Corporate Office, 220 South Washington Avenue, Bergenfield, New Jersey, and Kirk's Hackensack Tire and Auto, 340 River Street in Hackensack.
Your son hit you up for a 3-digit price pair of sneakers. Your daughter really, really needed that cute little purse. Well, now it's your turn, because at BMW of Bayside, you can drive a low-mileage, certified pre-owned BMW at special lease prices and financing as low as 3.9%. It's the ultimate driving machine. All have passed a stringent inspection, all come with balance of 6-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and Bayside's exclusive free loaner car program. For only $199 a month, lease a 1997 328 IS with a sunroof, onboard computer, and more, just $199. See ad in Sunday's New York Times, only at BMW of Bayside, 247-21 Northern Boulevard. Call 718-229-4400 or www.bmwbayside.com. Close-in 24-month lease with $39.19 due at inception. Total monthly payments $47.76. VIN number ET34767 with 58K miles. 3.9 APR financing on select models up to 60 months, subject to primary lender approval.
What does Boomer Esiason have to say about his new show on MSG Network?
You know what makes this show unique is me. I am New York. I'm from here. I played here. I live here. I know exactly what the fan is thinking because I'm a fan. I grew up a Knicks fan. I grew up a Ranger fan. I was a Met fan. You know, I think it's important to say what you feel. I have very significant opinions about the way things are being run. And only a New York athlete could truly have the perspective and understanding of what it's like to play in front of the most difficult fan base in the world to play in front of. You feel it on the field, and you can sense it on the court, on the ice. And you can ask a Yankee fan, a Giant fan, a Jet fan, a specific question about their team, and they have an answer. They have an opinion. They are passionate about their teams. In this program, you know, we'll be able to hear those opinions through emails and through phone calls. It's about finding the players, the politicians, and the people that make this city run and tick. That's what's going to make this show tick.
The Boomer Esiason Show premieres Friday, September 13th on MSG.
Olympic sprinters are fast. Cheetahs are fast. The Concorde is fast. Workplace gossip is faster. Whisper to a colleague that you're looking for a new job, and aeronautical engineers will be unable to calculate the speed with which that rumor blazes through the office. That's fast. It's human nature to blab, and workplace gossip begs to be blabbed. It might as well be disseminated via company-wide emails. So when it comes time to investigate whether or not there's a better job for you out there, you can check into the Witness Protection Program or check out CareerBuilder.com, the job network that understands job seeking should happen with the utmost discretion. That's why we allow you to investigate opportunities without having to post your resume first for the whole world to see. Be smart. Be in control. Career Builder. Be one.
Look for a job without blowing your cover. Just go to CareerBuilder.com, find a job that's right for you, and then apply in complete confidentiality.
It is 31 minutes past the hour here in the Amos Morning program, and Charles and I were just having a brief discussion in which he observed that he can't understand how at this point in my life I haven't either been murdered or committed.
Killed or committed.
Yeah, which seems, frankly, troubling to me. There's an op-ed piece in the New York Times this morning written by President Bush, which Charles said, I wonder who wrote this for him. That's what Charles said. But I suspect the president had something to do with it.
I would suspect.
They do have speechwriters and those kinds of people. In which he says, among other things, America's greatest opportunity is to create a balance of world power that favors human freedom. The defense of peace is a difficult struggle of uncertain duration, and competition between great nations is inevitable, but armed conflict in our world is not. I'm skipping around here. Every nation now faces a choice between lawful change and chaotic violence, between joyless conformity and an open, creative society, and between the celebration of death and suicide and murder and the defense of life and its dignity. And perhaps the most relevant paragraph in this piece, it looks to be about 1,000 words. America's people and its government are responding decisively to the challenges of our changed world. We are committed to defending our society against the current and emerging threats, and we are determined to stand for the values that gave our nation its birth. We believe that freedom and respect for human rights are owed to every human being in every culture. We believe that the deliberate murder of innocent civilians and the oppression of women are everywhere and always wrong. And we refuse to ignore or appease the aggression and brutality of evil men. That, just a couple of excerpts from the president's op-ed piece in this morning's New York Times that is headlined Securing Freedom's Triumph. We spoke when this book first came out with New York City Fire Department Battalion Commander Richard Picciotto, who wrote the book along with Daniel Peisner, entitled Last Man Down. Please welcome once again to the Imus in the Morning program, Commander Picciotto. How are you this morning?
I'm fine, Imus. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Picciotto, correct.
You ever talked to anybody as dumb as I am? Oh, you probably have.
One or two people, not many, though.
Thank you. Well, this book went on, of course, because it's still on the bestseller list?
No more. It went through its
cycle.
Its cycle, and I was happy with the way it's done, but it's not on the bestsellers list anymore.
Tell me what happened again.
Well, I went down there. I was when I got dispatched down there, the second plane had already hit, so both towers were in flames. And I went into the North Tower, which was the first tower to be hit. I got up to the 35th floor of the North Tower when the North Tower started shaking. Didn't really know what was going on, but that was the effect of the South Tower crumbling, coming down. From that point, our communications were out, our command post was out. I gave the order to evacuate the North Tower, and we started getting all the rescue workers out. On the way down, a few things happened that I described in the book. People who didn't want to leave. Two of the stairwells blocking up with a lot of debris. That we only had one viable stairwell, and coming across a group of disabled people that we started getting out. We were in the North Tower. A small group of us were in the North Tower in the stairwell, the B stairwell, when the tower came down, collapsed, and miraculously we survived it. We were buried, I'd say, close to 4 hours. I don't know exactly how long. We were trapped in the stairwell, and then we were able to, after some time, make contact with people on the outside. They were coming to get us, and eventually we saw a little crevice, a little opening, and we were able to climb up and out.
What did you think when you woke up this morning?
I didn't really wake up this morning because I didn't really sleep last night. I've just been thinking all night. I had to turn some of the shows off last night. I was watching the shows on TV, and it was just renewing a lot of what we went through that day, and the losses that we occurred. So it's a very somber day for myself. I'm sure for a lot of people, for almost everybody.
Ordinarily, the New York City Fire Department gets about 25,000 applicants a year. This past year, they got fewer than 5,000. Wonder why.
I don't know, because I know a lot of people that have applied. A lot of young people have applied. My son, who's turned 18 this year, applied. He's a senior in high school. He would love to go on. A lot of his friends would like to go on. I guess it's people that really know the culture want to go in, but, maybe a lot of other people just are afraid of because of the events of September 11th. But I still think it's a tremendous job and tremendously rewarding job.
But boy, I mean, you gotta have some real balls to be a fireman. There's no other way to say it. I mean, you're a cop too, but holy God. I know the way, well, not to patronize you, believe me, but the way you people reacted, I had a guy on yesterday. What was his name, Bernie?
Louis Caccioli.
Do you know him?
Yeah, Louis was one of my firemen. He worked in one of my houses. 47 engine. I know Louis very well.
He told me how he was enormously passionate and riveting discourse yesterday. But he talked about how guilty he felt about a number of issues and so on. And I mean, I'm not a shrink, but you people were victims of what happened. I mean, you didn't. Some of you survived, some didn't.
Yeah, without a doubt. But firemen, we have this can-do attitude, and we take any fire death personally. We feel that we should have done more, or could have done more, even though deep in your heart you know you couldn't. September 11th, there's nothing more that anyone could have done. I think the fire department reacted tremendously, but it was just a terrible loss.
It's a great story. It's a great source of inspiration for people like me, for kids, for people throughout this country to hear these stories from you, from Louis, from this woman we talked to yesterday, from all of these people. That's the role now that, in my view, that you've all been cast in, and I think it was important for you to write this book, frankly. And I think it's important for Louis to continue to go around and talk to people. I mean, he's a remarkably articulate, not that he shouldn't be, but spokesman for what happened.
Yeah, Louis is a great guy, great cook also. You got to get him to cook for you sometime. Tremendous cook.
Do you work in the pit?
No, I was injured after it, and it took me a while to be able to get back down there. Even to go to look. A few weeks before I was able to go down there to even look at it, and then I since the first time I went down after September 11th, then I went down, quite a bit, but I was on light duty. I really didn't work in the pit at all. That was brutal work for these guys who did it, and I know guys who volunteered. They were there just every day, nonstop. That was brutal.
Bo Deal and some New York City police officials took me down about a week after it happened, and we had...
Right. After the few of us got out that day, that was it. And then it got so terrible. I mean, they felt a good day was the day that they recovered a few bodies. That was a good day. It's how crazy it became down there. Normally that would be a horrendous day if you're recovering bodies, but that was a good day because that's what they were looking for. They were looking to bring home their brothers.
Talking with former... Are you still with the fire department? Or?
I'm still with them. I'm retiring. I'll be retired probably by the end of the year.
Okay. Fire department battalion commander Richard Picciotto, who wrote the book Last Man Down with Daniel Pajner. Is that the way you pronounce his name?
Dan Pajner.
Pajner. And it was a New York Times bestseller, and it's a riveting account of the commander getting out of there. What did you think ought to be done down there with that site?
Well, it's going to be rebuilt. But personally, I don't want to see another target being built. I was down there in '93 for the World Trade Center bombing. I was down there September 11th. I just have a fear that if they build something that's a seventh wonder of the world, a huge tower or, 2 towers or 3 towers that are really distinctive, that sooner or later they're going to be attacked again, and I don't want to see that happen. And I'd also like to see a fitting memorial for all the people who died, and especially for the firemen. I think the firemen, gave a lot that day.
Louis yesterday expressed some anger toward apparently Mayor Bloomberg's unwillingness to provide a raise for firemen and policemen. What's your view of that?
There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of resentment over the past probably 10 years. When the city financially was doing well, we weren't getting raises. We got zeros, and now because the city is not doing well, they're saying, well, we can't afford it. Well, there's only 2 times you can get a raise, either if you can afford it or you can't afford it, and both times we get nothing. So I think it's ridiculous that a new fireman with 2 children is entitled to food stamps in New York City.
It's a disgrace.
It's a disgrace, and obviously you can't live in the city. Like myself, I live upstate. Almost all firemen and police officers, they live either upstate or on Long Island, and we're getting priced out of there also.
Well, I've been around a while, and I've seen what's going on, and I know the tremendous amount of money that gets wasted. So when I hear the mayor or anyone else in government tell me that there's not any money available, I know that there is. So.
Well, that's the other thing. You have to put priorities on the money they have. Emergency services are just that, emergency services, and they have to be maintained. They have to be adequately staffed and equipped.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to tell after a while when you get in a chain jerk, so. But maybe they'll come to their senses. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us. Hope you continue to recover. And what are you going to do in retirement? Do you know yet?
I'm planning on just retiring, just enjoying myself or trying to enjoy myself. It's been a real tough year for all the fire department. The media attention's been almost too much, so I'm looking to just relax for a little while, and then I really don't know, maybe go on a teaching circuit or something like that.
Fish, play some golf?
Oh, I'll do that, definitely. Fish, play golf, ski. I love to ski, snow ski.
All right, Commander, thanks very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Imus, and thanks, Chuck.
Okay. Commander Richard Picciotto, who wrote the book Last Man Down with Donald Paisner.
Yeah.
Daniel Paisner from the New York Times, and a New York Times bestseller with, a really riveting story. You just can't even imagine what happened.
Incredible story of escape.
It is about 20 seconds now here on the Imus Morning Program from 8:46 Eastern Time. And in about 12 seconds, we're going to pause for a minute of silence, and we will come out of that minute of silence with Governor George Pataki reading the Gettysburg Address. It is now 8:46. It is 13 minutes till the hour here on the Imus Morning Program. And that was a full minute of silence, a moment of silence here on the Imus Morning Program. Well, that is the precise moment that the first plane struck the World Trade Center tower, South Tower, first right. Here's the governor, I think. Governor. Speculating that when the coverage that MSNBC is providing, Brian Williams probably came in about halfway through that and said, "You are listening to a moment."
Moment of silence.
139 years ago, President Abraham Lincoln looked out at his wounded nation as he stood on a once beautiful field that had become its saddest and largest burial ground. Then it was Gettysburg. Today it is the World Trade Center, where we gather on native soil to share our common grief. Governor George E. Pataki.
Thank you, Mayor Bloomberg. 87 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that the nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far beyond our poor powers to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is, rather, for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead, we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
They were our neighbors, our husbands, our children, our sisters, our brothers, and our wives. They were our countrymen and our friends. They were us. Mayor Rudolph W. Giuliani.
Jr. Edelmiro Abad. Maria Rose Abad. Andrew Anthony Abadi.
And a state attorney runs for governor, and the people don't even know who the local TV affiliates are.
Right.
Boggles the mind. You gotta love Lady Liberty, man. That's like that one time in life.
We lost the feed, or somehow.
We lost the feed somehow there. The mayor reading the list of people who died in the World Trade Center. We are coming up on 8:53 Eastern Time, and we're going to replay these tapes from what we were saying a year ago today, which none of us have heard, at least I haven't.
No.
Not at all. So here we go. And about halfway through the game, I'd pass out, and it was a nightmare.
That sounds like a great time. I wish I was there for those days.
You know, MSNBC has just flashed on my screen. It looks like there is a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center.
We got Warner on the phone, who's looking at it right now.
Warner,
Hi, man.
what's the deal?
Something hit the World Trade Center. I think it was a plane. I heard it right over my head, and the explosion rocked the building.
Really?
And I'm looking at it right now. The smoke is just bellowing out of the World Trade Center. I mean, it's horrible. You can see the fire. You can see the smoke. I mean, it's a monster hole. You know, the World Trade Center, there's the Twin Towers. It's the one on the right.
Right.
And it is, I mean, it's horrible. It is terrible. It's just black smoke, and on the left you can see the fire.
Oh, my God.
I mean,
I can see it on MSNBC here.
The whole top of the building.
There's a flame. Well, it looks like there is smoke coming from the side of the building. Oh, my God, it looks like something flew into the building.
Yeah, I heard it. Went right overhead. I was laying in bed, and I heard it. I said, boy, that plane sounds low. And then, boom, I mean, it was like a bomb. This is horrible. This is a disaster. Jeez, I'm looking at maybe, I hope because of the time, maybe there aren't that many people there. But, that, God's sakes, that's a busy thing. Oh, man. This is terrible. I can't believe I'm looking at this. It's like you're looking at a movie or something, but I'm looking at it live. It's it's right in front of me because that's where I live. I'm looking out my bedroom window. Oh man, the smoke is just coming out of the top.
And you can see it. It's a huge. The whole.
Oh man, and
the whole top of the building is engulfed in smoke.
Oh, this is.
And then there's smoke pouring out of the side of the building, in which obviously something has flown into the side. Do we have any other information, Mark, from anybody?
Not yet. We're waiting. Warner's got actually the breaking news here.
Yeah, I think it was a plane. I heard it. I heard the plane. I said, my wife was close. I said, man, that sounds awful low. And then, boom. I mean, when an explosion rocks your building, I'd say, we're about 7 blocks away.
No.
And I'm looking right at it. Oh, man.
The hole looks like it covers a few floors.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, the width, you're talking about the whole side.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But the hole nearly covers the entire side.
Yeah.
Encompasses the entire side of the World Trade Center. Which building is it? Is it the one with the observation deck or the other one?
It's the taller one, the one on the right.
Right.
Well, depending if you're looking right to left, but it's the one that has the huge tower on top. I think that's the TV towers.
Right.
And gosh, you see people on the rooftops looking. Downtown Tribeca, you can. Oh, God's sakes, this is terrible.
Yeah, that really is that's an awful sight just to look at it.
Oh man!
Early report here that it was some sort of that it was a twin-engine plane that flew right into the Trade Center, but no word on if it was a commercial or private or what.
God. Oh. I don't think I've never seen anything like this.
All we have are this, but now there's smoke pouring out of one where apparently the hole went into the side of the building, but then it looks as though there's fire now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see any flames, but there's such an enormous amount of smoke that obviously there's fire.
It's the side facing north. If you were coming uptown,
right.
That's the north side. God's sakes! I'd say the only thing positive about it is that if you were under it, if people in the building. Of course, I don't think you can use any elevators or anything like that, but I guess they can walk down. But anything from that explosion and up, you can't get out.
Charles and I and Warner Wolf, and that was our initial reaction to what had happened. And as Charles said, the initial reports we were getting were that it was a twin-engine plane. A little did we know. Here's the White House correspondent from NBC News, David Gregory. Good morning, Mr. Gregory.
Good morning, Don.
So the president's going to. He'll visit the Pentagon. Where are you now?
I'm actually at One Financial Plaza looking out over Ground Zero, and taking in this solemn ceremony as everybody else is across the country.
We spoke both with Governor Pataki and Mayor Giuliani this morning, and I asked them both. I asked everybody how they were thinking about when they woke up this morning, and almost everybody said they didn't sleep that well. So, what were you thinking when you woke up?
I think I was thinking about my son mostly, and how he was born after this horror, and it was a time for me at 8:46 to pray that he will never know or witness the kind of horror that this day recalls. And it seems that that's what a lot of people are thinking today. It brings it all back as it's supposed to, but it's very hard to look out on the side and think about it all.
Well, he's going to grow up in a vastly different world, and we're all going to live in it, and so will he. So, boy, I hope you're right.
Yeah, and the transformation is just beginning, and I think the president's going to talk about that some tonight. But I think what he's going to lay out tomorrow at the United Nations is really what's so important in terms of where this war against terrorists really goes next, and it's so much more complicated. I was with the president on September 14th of last year when he first came to Ground Zero, and he had that resolve. He really reflected the anger and the sadness of the country, and talking about how the rest of the world was going to hear from us. And there's no question that the rest of the world has, but now it's how we attempt to in some ways reshape that world that we're interacting with and living with. That's going to become so complicated for this administration, particularly when he starts thinking about Iraq, which is really page 2 of looking back on September 11th, is at least from this administration's point of view, is looking ahead and seeing where the fight goes next.
Do you have any indication what he's going to say tomorrow night?
I think...
Or tomorrow?
Tomorrow during the day.
Yeah.
It's primarily two things. One, it's to lay out the case against Saddam. And a lot of people are saying, well, that means he's going to lay out evidence of just how far along Saddam is in developing nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction. That does not appear to be the case. In essence, the president's going to be arguing to the United Nations, what more do you need to know? There are a series of UN resolutions that this leader has violated and willfully ignored since the end of the Gulf War. What more do you need to know about this regime than what we know now? I think he's going to take on the United Nations as much as he takes on Iraq by saying, what do you stand for if you're going to allow people, leaders, dictators like Saddam Hussein to ignore your mandates? And I think, according to officials who are planning all of this, that he will leave the unmistakable impression that he expects an authorization to hold Saddam to his obligations, and he'll leave the unmistakable impression that the United States is prepared to act alone if the world is not prepared as an international body to go with the United States.
So he already recognizes that probably China and Russia will veto any Security Council resolution to attack Iraq.
Well, I think it's going to be, yes, I think it's going to be very delicate, because there seems to be a growing movement to support the potential use of military force to hold him, to allow inspectors in. But what happens if he ignores that? Will there be an open-ended resolution that the United States seeks for individual nations like the U.S. and any other allies who are willing to take him on? I think that's where the debate is going to get tricky. And in a lot of ways, what officials say the president wants to do is give the allies a little bit of room. He's sort of putting them on notice, making the case and allowing them some room to come up with something and to work with the U.S. to fashion something. But make no mistake that this is a speech about an ultimatum. This is about laying down the first marker and putting some sort of deadline on the record.
And then tonight, I guess he talks with Scott Pelley from CBS on 60 Minutes too, and we talked to Scott this morning, in which Scott sounded as though he had just gone to work for Fox in his enthusiasm, which there's no reason he shouldn't have, but it's 3 minutes, by the way, after 9 o'clock Eastern Time, which is when the second plane hit the tower. Did any indication of what he told Scott tonight, or?
Well, my understanding is that he's really going to relive the day. In the course of that interview, as the bells continue to toll here at Ground Zero, as you say, marking the moment of the second attack. He'll walk through the day, and I think he'll also talk about where he sees things moving next. I think tonight, Don, primarily this is going to be a relatively short address to the nation, and this is really a day that he has set aside, that the administration has set aside to pause and reflect. And this is not as much about rallying the country and rallying the world as tomorrow will be. There's definitely a separation. This is going to be a very reflective and somber day.
I know you're busy this morning. It's very nice of you to take the time to call us. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Certainly.
Now, the White House correspondent from NBC News, David Gregory, here on the Irish Morning program. It's coming up on 5 minutes after 9 o'clock Eastern Time on this September 11, 2002. We're now going to go to a taped excerpt, again from a year ago today, just after the second plane hit. And you'll be listening to me and Charles and Warner Wolf and Susan Waldman, who both of them provided, in fact, eyewitness accounts. Warner from his apartment, which was just blocks from the site of the attack, and Susan Waldman, who, I forget what bridge she was on, but Triborough Bridge, fairly riveting stuff. So let's listen to that now. Well, the other tower just blew up. I mean, a huge hole just blew up in the other tower, the tower that the plane flew in. There's a huge hole in that, and then the other World Trade Center tower blew up.
There is another huge area damaged by an explosion on the other tower, not the tower that the aircraft hit, that also appears to range over maybe 15 to 20 stories at the least. Some sort of secondary explosion in the other tower has just occurred.
Are we getting any live feed? What kind of live feed are we getting from Channel 4? Is there anything you can pick up from anybody? So look at that, Charles. Look. Well, you can see it blow.
Yeah.
They're showing a replay of it blowing up.
Of the secondary explosion in the other tower. It's absolutely.
If you just turned your radio or television on, the plane has flown into the side of the World Trade Center.
It looks. People are starting to say it could be a terrorist attack.
Well, you would suspect maybe with a secondary explosion in the other tower that was not involved in the initial incident, which is what has been described as some sort of twin-engine plane flying into the north side of Tower 1 of the World Trade Center.
And now the other tower blowing up.
Now the other tower, a massive explosion.
We got Warner back.
Warner?
Yeah, I'm in. The tower on the left that just got it, I didn't hear any airplane. And there's no big hole. I don't think that was a plane.
Well, but there was a huge plume of fire.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Yeah,
covered nearly 15 or 20 stories. So that appears to be that both towers appear to be on fire.
Both towers are on fire. The one on the right that was hit first was a plane. I mean, you could hear the plane go over, and boom. Then the one on the left, which just happened minutes ago, the two holes. I don't think it was a plane. God, I hate to say it. I hate, if I had to guess, I would say it was a bomb. I mean, they just exploded.
Yeah,
the two holes.
It looked on how big is the hole on the one on the left?
As the smoke is, oh man, now you can see it's going to be like half the cover of the building, half the front. I'm looking south, so the north side of the buildings are facing me. I'd say it covers half of the left tower. The one on the right is almost the entire tower on the right, the width of the hole.
Well, right now, the Associated Press is saying, although You say you did not see a second airplane.
Right.
There is word that a second plane has crashed into the World Trade Center.
Yes, one of the networks picked that up before on video. Yes.
Both towers, as you mentioned, are in flames, smoke building, and as many as 6 deaths reported right now.
Oh, man. I never heard the second plane.
If in fact there was one.
Oh, God. This is, you can see the debris falling. Oh, this is terrible.
Oh, there's another.
Oh, no, I just saw the plane just fly into it, so and purposely flew into it.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Because I was...
Oh, man. Well, it wasn't a jet. It was probably just a prop. Oh.
So clearly a terrorist attack, you would assume.
You would assume
Yeah,
at this point.
Assume a terrorist attack.
You have to assume it. Oh, man.
2 airplanes have flown into the World Trade Center in New York City, striking each tower.
Well, that is...
My God.
What are they saying on MSNBC? Can we pick that up audio?
Seriously, U.S. government facilities worldwide remain at a heightened state of alert. Now, you'll remember that when the World Trade Center explosion happened back in 1993, this was linked to Osama bin Laden's terrorist network.
The World Trade Center has 7 high-rise buildings, a shopping mall, several levels of underground parking, and if this was a terrorist attack, it was timed at a moment on the East Coast shortly before 9 o'clock, where there would have been a great many people inside these 2 buildings. There you see the second attack, the plane coming in, exploding in the second tower. There would have been a great many people inside these 2 towers who no doubt lost their lives. Not to mention the debris raining down on people below, a very busy area, the southern part of Manhattan during rush hour. We do not have any reports of injuries or deaths, but surely that will be coming to us very shortly. Lester? Lester?
All right, what I want to do is take a look at that airplane in slow motion. It looks like a jet aircraft. There it is, frozen. Clearly a low-wing airplane. Looks to be a swept wing, which indicates a jet, and it looks like a sizable jet, perhaps an airliner or a commuter jet.
Susan Waldman is... where are you, Susan?
I'm on the Triborough Bridge, Don, and I was on the Bruckner when the second plane just hit. So I really had a bird's-eye view of this. I saw the fireball from the first plane and then turned on the radio, and as I was driving on the Bruckner trying to get to the bridge, I saw it looked like a twin-engine plane come over the Hudson River and go right at the other tower. So I saw that, and the smoke is now just streaming towards Brooklyn. The Triborough Bridge obviously is just at a standstill and backed up as police cars are going through, but I actually saw, it looked like a big plane, and I'm not an expert at planes, but it looked like a pretty decent-sized plane come from the Hudson River side and go straight into the second tower.
Did it look like a jet?
It looked like I saw 2 engines. It looked like a big plane. I'm not a big plane person.
Right.
It didn't look like a little tiny Cessna jet, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah. And both towers are on fire now.
Both towers are on fire. It's all black smoke now. As I was on the Bruckner before the second plane hit, I did see the fireball from that from the first plane that was hit, and then I saw this plane come across and hit the second tower.
Where are you right now?
I'm right on top of the Triborough Bridge.
And it's all stopped?
And it's moving slowly, but we're moving over to the sides for police cars. Obviously, are trying to get through here. But what I can see right now is just total black smoke billowing out of the World Trade Center and just sort of floating towards Brooklyn. And we're obviously moving very, very slowly. Excuse me, I'm shaking here.
As Lester Holt was saying, if in fact it appeared to him to possibly be a 737, there is now an indication from the Associated Press that the FBI is investigating reports of an aircraft hijacking just before this World Trade Center disaster occurred. If in fact it was an airplane coming out of Newark Airport or one of the local airports that had been taken over by a hijacker, at least that is plausible at this point, and the FBI is said to be investigating that possibility right now.
All right, Susan, thank you very much. Take care of yourself.
Okay, John. Thanks.
Susan Waldman, who's They're on the Trevor Bridge. I guess they're moving a little bit,
but this is stunning. Yeah, I mean, and the implications are just unimaginable at this point.
Well, I mean, there's no way to even describe it. We have the actual video we're watching on there as MSNBC of the. You can see the plane fly into the World Trade Center.
Of the second aircraft approached the World Trade Center from over the Hudson River. And the film that if you haven't seen, you will see later today sometime, you are seeing the back part of the explosion occur. The plane hits the other side of the World Trade Center, and the burst you see coming through is on this side, meaning that the explosion just erupted all through those floors of the building and came out the back.
Right. What's remarkable about that tape, to me, but I was just talking to Eddie Scazzeri in the newsroom, whenever nothing like this has happened, but whenever there is some event,
something momentous,
there's always such confusing information that you get initially before you get it all sorted out.
Right.
But were they 767s, Charles?
Yeah, 757s.
57s or 67s?
57s, I believe, But 757, 767 is essentially the same airplane, just engined a little differently.
Right.
But a jumbo jet, regardless.
What do you think listening to that, Warner?
I don't know what to say. It's the first time I heard that.
Oh. Yeah, I haven't heard it either.
Very minor thing. I see why I didn't think it was a plane because it came from the other side.
And you wouldn't have heard it because it came up the Hudson instead of down. I still think, I've always thought, and everyone else has thought as well, of the extraordinary luck of being able to coordinate the hijacking of all of these planes. 4 of them.
And they got a perfect day with perfect weather, and
I mean, you can take flying lessons, but you still got to fly it into the building.
Yeah.
Which is not. I mean, it's. I mean, I certainly recognize that there'll be other terrorist attacks throughout the world and in this country, but it's unimaginable. Well, that was unimaginable. I was going to say idiotically that it's unimaginable to me that something of that magnitude could be coordinated again, but I mean, that's idiotic to say that. There's no way to know that.
Right. And they did it.
But the extraordinary... Boy, then you just think about, man, the people in the planes. Oh, my God, the people above where the planes went in and below. And sometimes I wake up at night and I see those people jumping out of the building. I mean, I can't, having been on those buildings. I've been on the side of the building in a window washer cage. Right. I mean, I've been... Joel Hollander asked me yesterday, he said, do you still have the photographs that you took from that window washer cage? I said, yeah. 35 millimeter slides. Looking straight down from the side of the building. I mean, it's terrifying. And I'm afraid of heights anyway, unless I have a camera in my hand. And that doesn't bother me, but...
You know, when speaking to a firefighter the other day, and one of the things he said, pretty horrific, he said, you have to realize the hopelessness of someone who had the choice of jumping out of the window was better than what the other fate was of a fireball, heat, fire. That was the choice of the two.
Oh God! And what a horrifying way to...
You can't even grasp it. No, not even a little bit.
And you're alive till you hit the ground. I mean, you don't just because you jump out the window doesn't mean you don't lose consciousness.
Probably not.
Do you?
I don't know medically what happens if I just don't know. I mean, I wouldn't think so.
I think you would.
I know Did and I were discussing that.
Be quite cognizant of what was going on.
It's 18 after the hour here in the Irish Morning Program. We're playing excerpts from what our discussion was last September 11th, and
that we have not heard.
Well, you're definitely alive, though. If you jump out with a parachute, you float down and you're fully conscious.
Yeah, but I know, but they're not jumping with a parachute.
Right.
So at that speed, do they immediately lose consciousness?
Yeah, it's the same thing until you pull the ripcord in the parachute. You go on the same speed.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
It's impact that kills them.
Yeah.
But sometimes people have died of heart attacks before.
Yeah, right.
If you're not prepared.
Maybe become unconscious.
Yeah.
It's coming up at 19 after the hour. Our next cut is about 5 minutes, and I think it begins with Lester Holt introducing President Bush, and this was his first apparently public comment before he went into the witness. No. Well, before he, what the hell to do? What you know?
Yeah.
I never understood that criticism.
No, when he was told from the White House, don't come back here to Washington, D.C., go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Until they could sort out what in the world, they had no idea what was going on. The dimensions of what was happening.
And the suspicion is that the plane that flew into the Pentagon was really destined for the White House.
Right. White House or Capitol Hill, the Congress.
So let's listen now to first Lester Holt and then the President.
President Bush is speaking. Let's listen.
Education. I do want to thank the folks here at the Booker Elementary School for their hospitality. Today we've had a national tragedy. 2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country. I have spoken to the Vice President, to the Governor of New York, to the Director of the FBI, and have ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help the victims and their families, and to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and to find those folks who committed this act. Terrorism against our nation will not stand. And now, if you join me in a moment of silence. May God bless the victims, their families, and America. Thank you very much.
And the indication we are getting is the President will get on a plane and head immediately to Washington, D.C., his events canceled. In case you're just now joining us, planes crashed into the upper floors of both World Trade Center towers minutes apart just a short time ago. A horrific scene of...
Well, we're listening to a feed from MSNBC, and we can tell you that two apparently commercial airliners, both apparently hijacked, we don't have much more information than that, have, been hijacked and flown into both the towers of the World Trade Center in New York City, in the financial district in New York City. And we don't know much more about that other than that the FBI is investigating the report that these planes were hijacked, one apparently an American Airlines from Boston to New York.
Boston to Los Angeles.
Boston to Los Angeles.
That was Andrea Mitchell's, that was her information after she discussed this with some high officials.
Yeah, and then the other plane we don't know, United Airlines.
Well, there was at least one suggestion that it could have been a United Airlines aircraft.
But I mean, a scene right out of one of these New Line cinema movies.
Absolutely.
I mean, just an awful scene.
Within either building, perhaps the top 20 floors of either building on fire.
And it's shortly, they both happen around 9 o'clock Eastern time. One before 9 o'clock, about 12 minutes before 9 o'clock. And the other about 10 minutes after that. Charles, do you have any information?
A senior U.S. official says at least one of 2 planes was, in fact, the hijacked American Airlines aircraft, as we mentioned, en route from Boston to Los Angeles. The president just spoke, we know, and is heading back to Washington, canceling the rest of his schedule today. The top at least 20 floors are still on fire. There's been no communication or anyone at this point claiming responsibility. Skies, as is pointed out here, are perfectly clear this morning in New York, and so the likelihood of any plane having accidentally strayed from its intended flight path into the World Trade Center is almost impossible.
Oh.
Mayor Giuliani holding a news conference at the corner of Park Place and Church Street in Manhattan about what has happened, this absolutely horrific, unbelievable scene in the financial district of New York City this morning. No word at this point on what has happened so far as casualties are concerned. There was one early report, unconfirmed, that perhaps a half dozen fatalities had been reported, but
there's no traffic being let into the city. You can leave the outbound George or Washington Bridge and Lincoln Tunnel, but that is it. Other than that, you can't get in or out of the city.
So they have sealed off New York City, at least certainly Manhattan.
And we are in across the 59th Street Bridge in Queens,
right,
where we apparently will be for a while. All of the New York airports are closed. The Lincoln Tunnel closed until they
until they can make some further determination of
what's going on,
exactly what has happened here, and what agency or agents are responsible.
Who did this?
Yes.
Of course, I remember, as does everyone else who lives in the city, Deirdre and Wyatt were in Manhattan. I was here in Queens. You couldn't get a hold of anybody.
Yeah.
When we discovered a BlackBerry deal.
That's right. That's right.
Which Deirdre now uses almost exclusively for email, everything else. But that was the least of our problems with this, whether I could get in touch with Deirdre or Wyatt or not. But it was a concern of everybody in the city. But little did we know that the towers were going to come down. I mean, nobody could ever imagine that.
At that point, we were having reports of a half dozen fatalities.
And Warner, of course, was an eyewitness to this from his building, which is how many blocks away?
12.
12 blocks away, which is, he just lives on top of the building, so he had an unobstructed view of what was going on. Well, you couldn't imagine at that point, because they were going to come down?
No, I don't think that point, but the smoke, I've never seen smoke like that, or fire. But no, I would say I never imagined that the towers would come down.
And then no one knew where else there was going to be an attack. And we didn't know at that point that a plane was on its way to the Pentagon. And that there was another plane that ultimately crashed in Pennsylvania that was on its way to, the speculation was either the White House or the Capitol building. Mm-hmm. And, all the media was all scrambling to find out what was going on, as I just talked about earlier, was the case with these kinds of disasters where you just don't know whether there's a shooting in a school or wherever.
No, it's impossible to know early on.
And with the advent of all of these various news outlets and 24-hour cable news, and there was a time when when the media had an opportunity to sort everything out and then report what happened. But now there's this we're just a product of the way things are done. We're all looking for instant information.
Sure.
And
breaking news.
And in many cases, it's horribly confused. And, I mean, I was struck by anything, but I thought it was interesting that AP and they were reporting 6 deaths, and while also reporting that 2 jumbo jets had flown into at that point 2 commercial airliners had been hijacked and flown into each of the towers of the World Trade Center. And if you just thought for a second, you would realize that it would be more than 6 people who would perish, although you couldn't imagine that anybody would survive that, which they didn't, obviously. But it's 28 after the hour here on the Imus Wayne program on this September 11, 2002, as we are, Charles and I and Warner Wolf are listening to tapes that we've not heard. We did have the fairly... Well, let's listen. So the report we have now is that a bomb has gone off at the Pentagon.
In some place at a helipad, near a heliport, according to Jim Mikolashevsky, who's there at the Pentagon. There is further report now from the New Jersey State Police that all Hudson River bridges and tunnels have been closed as a precaution in the wake of this apparent double terrorist attack on the World Trade Center towers.
And if it's an orchestrated, obviously an orchestrated, clearly terrorist attack, if a bomb has gone off now at the Pentagon.
Yep.
On the heliport there at the Pentagon. Let's listen to more of what Mick was
there's miles and miles of offices. At what location did this seem to have detonated?
It's at the heliport. The heliport, which is as you sit in the Pentagon, you have the Potomac River and Washington, D.C. on one side, and the heliport is located almost exactly on the opposite side of the building, along one of the highways. Easily accessible, even though that they've increased security here significantly at the Pentagon within the past couple of years. That area...
I want to mention to you, Mick, that we are hearing, again, unconfirmed reports that this was the result of a plane crashing in the area as well.
I have no idea, Katie. All I know is that people who were in the building who came running from that part of the building thought it was a bomb of some kind. Thank goodness that was a helicopter that just flew by. I'm just a little nervous right now when you hear aircraft go past. But they have, in fact, evacuated that portion of the building. Usually they have sirens that go off in the building alerting you to the fact that it's time to get out. I haven't heard those yet. But just judging by the pictures, it's clear that that part of the building that is not damaged, at least, has been evacuated. Like I said, in the hallway, it was pandemonium.
Bring you up to date of what we have so far here. We have 2 planes that have crashed apparently into the World Trade Center. We have
apparently 2 commercial airliners.
What is being now reported as an explosion or another plane crash at the Pentagon in Washington. And they have, according to Jim Mikolashevsky at NBC News, they have evacuated the west wing of the White House. That's the wing where the president is and all the main offices and so on. It's a working part of the White House. And so whether this is, of course, an orchestrated, it's doubtful. It's certainly doubtful it's a coincidence with the World Trade Center.
Right.
But whether this is part of all of this involving the Pentagon or not is, one would have to suspect that it probably is. But the president was in Sarasota, Florida. He's rushing back now to the Situation Room at the White House. They've sealed off New York City, so you can't get in or out, and certainly at Manhattan. And which, just in terms of where we are about a mile. We're about a mile from Manhattan, right across the 59th Street Bridge in Queens, New York. Turns out the president was advised not to go back to the White House and went, I forget now where he went, and then we began to get reports about a plane that was also in the air that had been hijacked, Flight 93, that ultimately crashed in Pennsylvania. And I remember the speculation was that whether jets had been scrambled with orders to shoot it down.
Yeah.
But it was quickly determined, as we learned, that it was in fact another plane that had flown into the Pentagon, and then there was this other plane that was in the air. And of course at this point, we're talking about this was about 9:45 now. Not now, but I mean it was about 9:45 then. It's 9:33 Eastern time now. The towers had yet to come down. And of course, Warner, you're still looking at this, right?
Yeah. I think the thing that I didn't know they would come down, but that if you were that close to that fire, You just had bad thoughts. Wait a minute. It just can't continue like this. The fire cannot continue like this without something happening. And of course, I assume that was the fuel, the fuel fire from. It just, there was no end to that fire. So, I didn't know that it would melt the inside of the towers. But you said yourself, they can't go on like this. This fire can't continue like this and not something happen. As I listen to this, one thought I have is, people say, well, we need 100% to prove that Iraq and Saddam Hussein have the weapon. You don't want 100%, because the only 100% is exactly what happened a year ago.
That's a good point.
So forget that 100%. You don't want that.
No.
So to me, Bush is, he is 100% right. You better get him now. Don't wait.
There is, I remember thinking at the time that how they were going, if it were a fire that could have been fought and put out, how they were going to do that. It was 80 stories up.
Right.
In the World Trade Center, they rose a quarter of a mile in the air. A quarter of a mile in the air. It's a long, So, but these firemen were pouring into that building with the intention of, one, saving people and putting that fire out.
Yeah. Just simply trying to get higher.
And none of these firemen are stupid, by the way. I mean, they know what they're doing. We learned.
But I can't get that phrase out of my mind. The civilians coming down, passing firemen going up.
They had this show last night, Report from Ground Zero, on ABC. Illustrated just that last night for 2 hours. It was unbelievable. All fresh faces, fresh firemen faces that were stuck inside the building, that went in. Their fathers who went down afterward and looked for them every day. The accounts were unbelievable.
Yep.
Illustrating their courage and in fact how smart they are. They're no dopes. They're not idiots.
No, of course not.
Not sheep. They knew what they were getting into and went anyway.
Well, as they have emphasized, they're trained really, in addition obviously to firefighting, to do one other thing, and that is to save lives. And that is what drives them.
23 minutes till the hour here on the I'm Just Wondering program. Although almost no one who I have ever talked to, particularly firemen, anticipated that the buildings would come down.
Correct.
So
you just didn't get that idea at all.
But I'm sure some of them had to enter. Of course they did. Had to think, well, this is no absolutes, and I'm sure they thought, well, nobody anticipated 2 jumbo jets would fly into the building.
Of course not.
So you had at that point to think, well, they probably won't come down, but who the hell knows at this point?
And after knowing the first building came down, instead of tearing butt out of the building, they helped people get out of the second building.
That's right.
Knowing that one, too, probably would come down.
Yeah, at that point, then
Yeah.
And a lot of them paid dearly for it.
Then the speculation is removed. You just figure, well, this one's going to come down as well. Then. It's just a question of when.
It's got to. It's burning the same way in the same area.
What did your wife think of all this? It's the same thing you thought, I guess, huh?
Yeah, she was more calm than I was. I won't say calm, but in fact, when I was describing it, I didn't think I'd be able. I was talk anymore, and I remember she said to me, she said, you have to keep going. She said, you have to keep going.
Yeah. It was remarkable description from you of what happened. It was I mean, you could watch it on television, but you really felt as though you were there listening to Warner.
Yes, you did.
So, yeah, of course, Warner was on with us, so I forget how long we stayed on, until 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but... And then I can't remember how we got back to New York, or to Manhattan, I mean, or... I don't remember exactly what happened. I don't remember at all what happened. I don't remember what happened to me. I remember what happened to people. I can't remember what I did at all.
I remember one thing about my trip home, and it was late in the day, and it's so late that the sun was setting, and as I eventually got to the George Washington Bridge to go back to New Jersey, there was this, I mean, you use all the edge, the surreal and all that, but you could look down the river and against the setting sun and see, of course, obviously, the huge smoke and plumes of smoke drifting back toward Brooklyn. And right on the bridge in front of all of that were these literally thousands of people walking across the George Washington Bridge. I mean, 8 abreast walking down the walkway back to the Fort Lee, New Jersey area. And it just, it just shook you looking at that whole scene. This mass exodus at that point.
Of course, then the tower came down and we had Warner on the phone. We believe now it is 10 o'clock here at WFAN in New York City, and we are watching a live feed from NBC News, and we believe that the top of the World Trade Center has just fallen off into the street. So we don't...
It apparently has the second tower that was hit in the second explosion, the second aircraft that flew into that. Apparently that...
Is Warner, is he still in that area? Is he still on the phone? Jesus, he lives right there.
He's there, Chief.
Warner?
Yeah, it's gone.
What?
It's gone.
What's gone?
The tower, it's gone. It's gone. It collapsed. It's gone. It's not there.
The whole tower?
The whole tower, it's gone. Yeah, there's only one tower. Oh, God, this is horrible. It's gone. It's not there. It's like it disappeared. It just collapsed.
And dust is covering all of lower Manhattan. The entire financial district looks like it is covered in this enormous, indescribable cloud of dust now from the apparent collapse, or the collapse, of one of the 2 World Trade Center towers.
How close are you to that, Warner?
I'm looking straight at it.
Good Lord.
I'm just, man.
Well, how do you get out of there, Warner?
What? How do I get out? Well, what do you mean?
I mean, are you safe?
Oh, I mean, I guess so. I don't know. I can't believe what I'm seeing.
No,
I can't believe it. I can't believe what I'm seeing. I can't.
The total destruction, apparently, of one of the 2 World Trade Center towers.
Oh, my God.
Well, it's the worst attack on this country since Pearl Harbor.
Absolutely.
The fire, when you were talking before, I could see that the fire was still burning much more. The one on the left, the one that collapsed. The fire on the right seems to have subsided with just smoke, but that one on the left, it was still burning and burning and burning. You can't see it on the television because I guess the cameras couldn't come down low enough. But the one on the left was hit lower. And the fire, oh, man.
Well, now they're saying that they're reporting a 3rd explosion in New York City, but what kind of what information are we getting from NBC News, Lou? Pop that up.
By a plane in an apparent terrorist attack has now collapsed. You are talking about a 1,377-foot skyscraper, 110 stories high, and judging by the debris and smoke that you are seeing there, it is now abundantly clear that the reports we are getting may well be true, that one of the twin towers has collapsed. The other one continues to burn. The Pentagon also struck, apparently by a terrorist attack, another airplane that hit it.
Well, what we have so far now is almost impossible to describe, and that is that two airplanes, commercial airliners, have flown into the both towers of the World Trade Center, and one of the towers of the World Trade Center has now collapsed. And what it collapsed on, obviously on itself and all other buildings in the area. And then there has been an explosion at the Pentagon, and that the preliminary reports there are that a plane was also flown into the Pentagon. All of the FAA has grounded all planes in the country, and only planes that are now currently in the air are being flown to their destinations. New York City has in effect been shut down. Manhattan. There are none of the bridges or tunnels are open into or out of Manhattan, with the exception, I understand, of the George Washington Bridge, and they're encouraging people to evacuate New York City. The White House has been evacuated. The Pentagon is being evacuated. Apparently, the Sears Tower in Chicago has also been evacuated, and there may be obviously other areas.
Capitol Building.
The Capitol Building has been also on the south tower of the World Trade Center has collapsed. So they actually took the tower down. And of course, at this point, if you didn't know, the country was just going to blow up.
No, you had no idea of what was the potential was.
And particularly if you were living here in New York City, I mean, you just thought that was it. Just a question of when you were going to. I mean, it wasn't not to be dramatic or melodramatic, but there wasn't any way to know whether we were all going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And what the extent of the attack was.
Right. Correct.
Because at that point, it just the magnitude was such, and that it was clear that it was this orchestrated effort that had been remarkably successful. We had a plane that had now been confirmed having crashed into the Pentagon. And I know I mentioned that there had been a third explosion, and we weren't ever able to resolve that. But the first tower had gone down, and it wasn't going to be that long before the second tower collapsed.
Right.
And
just a matter of another 30 minutes or so, 32 minutes between the two collapses, I think. Actually, it was about an hour and a half later, I guess. 10 o'clock.
I don't think it was that long.
No, it wasn't that long. No, I think
the whole thing happened in 102 minutes or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's right. It was about half an hour later.
And of course, these extraordinary acts of heroism were occurring, and there were literally thousands of people trying to get out of there.
Yeah.
And thousands of people were saved.
Yes. 343 firefighters died, but they saved, what'd they estimate? Like maybe as many as 25,000 people?
At least 25,000 people were saved. There were almost 100 policemen lost.
Yeah.
Emergency workers.
Right. New York City cops, Port Authority cops, EMS people. In addition to all the civilian deaths, Port Authority executive personnel who were lost.
And Mayor Giuliani was through this, in the midst of all of this, provided this extraordinary leadership that was just.
Yes, he did.
Almost incomprehensible.
Yeah, and it was immediate. It just seized control of the situation.
Well, we talked with his communications director, Sonny Mendel, yesterday, and she organized that immediate press conference.
Right. Yeah.
In which is the reason, you can, if you just get to thinking about it, it's remarkable that a lot of people live in New York City, 8 million. In this area, there's 25 or 30 million people. And it's remarkable that there wasn't just widespread chaos and panic.
Yeah.
But there wasn't any of that.
No.
And the resilience of people, well, the resilience of people in this country, but particularly of New Yorkers, was just, boy, extraordinary. The acts of heroism on the part of just everyone.
Yeah. Ordinary people acting in an extraordinary manner.
And we were coming rapidly up on a point where the second tower collapsed, and this is a conversation of our final tape excerpt this morning of me, Charles, and Warner, concluding with the report of this wayward plane over Pennsylvania. What are we hearing from MSNBC or NBC?
Yeah.
They have a reporter on right now. I don't know who it is.
Let me listen.
In Hoboken Terminal. And as I said, we have our 3 emergency rooms open and running.
Dr. Angelo Caprio, thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.
From around the New York City metropolitan region, help is pouring in after the attack on the Twin Towers.
And we believe now the second tower of the World Trade Center, that would be tower number 2, has collapsed. This is a terrible, terrible tragedy. The first one collapsed just a short time ago. This now appears to be the second of the Twin Towers, having been struck, each of them, by a plane, has collapsed. Let's listen.
From the area. There are firefighters and there are police trying to evacuate the area as quickly as possible. People who are near the area are in an absolute frenzied situation. The entire top of the building just collapsed. You can see the plume of smoke is coming in our direction. Let's get out of here, Ralph. We're going to leave because the smoke is coming right at us.
Well, the news is that both towers of the World Trade Center have collapsed. So,
the World Trade Center is now gone. And it's at this cataclysmic event that has happened in this country this morning.
Both World Trade Centers have collapsed. Congressional leadership's been taken to a secure location. The country clearly under just almost
unbelievable assault.
I mean, it's like one of those demolition deals you see where they take these buildings down. But both World Trade Centers have collapsed. Both trade towers
are simply gone. But the loss of life, there can be at this point no calculation. There's just no way to even try to think about that.
Well, there'll be. I mean, it'll take years to clean this up. There's no way to even.
No way to even begin to grasp what has happened in this country this morning.
Warner's on the phone. He saw both of them.
Warner?
I saw it. I saw it collapse. I just saw it as it was happening. It starts at the top and just comes right down. It was unbelievable. God.
Could you hear it?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Watching it is, again, it's so different seeing it in person rather than on television.
Wow.
I saw it happen. Oh, my God. There were people. There were people falling from the building. It's gone. All you see now is smoke. It's like the biggest clouds possible. The clouds are going toward the east.
Oh.
I'm looking out my bedroom window. I'm about 13 blocks away, straight ahead. My gosh. Charles said, compared it with Pearl Harbor, this will be a day in infamy.
Oh, absolutely.
As Roosevelt said.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Certainly. I mean, it's incalculable. You can't even think about certainly what you have witnessed or what we have seen by way of television this morning.
Yeah.
And of course, then the goal before, remember when they tried to blow it up? Why?
Yeah.
Right. Was to take it down.
8 years ago, right?
Yeah.
But they've taken it down. Now they've taken them both down.
Both down. 110 floors, both. Two of them. This is a war. There's no question about it.
Well, this certainly is. How far is the World Trade Center from the stock exchange?
Oh, just a few blocks. Yeah, you can't go near anywhere. And what about the poor? Oh, I mean, just the ramifications, the poor people that live near the Trade Center. The building falling on them. Oh, man.
I mean, there's got to be thousands of people.
Hundreds of thousands, I would say.
There is a report from Fox News that another hijacked airliner is en route toward Washington, D.C.
Oh.
And as we said earlier, that there's no reason at this point to suspect that could not be the case.
Especially if that's the only plane that's supposed to be in. No planes are supposed to be in the sky. That's why there are no planes in the sky.
Except those that were already airborne were permitted to go on to their destinations, and that was it.
My gosh.
You'll always remember the words of that brave man, expressing the spirit of a great country. We will never forget all we have lost and all we are fighting for. Ours is the cause of freedom. We've defeated freedom enemies before, and we will defeat them again. We cannot know every turn this battle will take, yet we know our cause is just, and our ultimate victory is assured. We will no doubt face new challenges, but we have our marching orders. My fellow Americans, let's roll.
I know I said I love you. I know you know it's true. I got to put the phone down and do what we gotta do. One standing in the highway, two more at the door. We got to get inside there before they kill some more. Time to run out. Let's roll. Time is running out. Let's roll. No time for indecision. We got to make a move. I hope that we're forgiven for what we gotta do. How this all got started, I'll never understand. I hope someone will fly this thing, get us back to land. Time is running out. Let's roll. Time is
citizens will meet violence with patient justice, assured of the rightness of our cause, and confident of the victories to come. In all that lies before us, may God grant us wisdom, and may He watch over the United States of America. Thank you.
Copyright 2002 Infinity Broadcasting. All rights reserved. Imus in the Morning is a presentation of WFAN and Westwood One Entertainment.
Wake up with Imus in the morning, then talk sports from 10 to 1 with Mac and Sid, and 1 to 6:30 with Mike and the Mad Dog, here on your flagship station for New York sports, The Fan, Sports Radio 66, WFAN New York, an Infinity Broadcasting station. WFAN 2020 Sports.
Good morning at 10 o'clock. This is John Minko. There will be the dedication of a monument at Yankee Stadium, a part of the 9/11 tribute prior to tonight's game with the Orioles, and WFAN Sweeney Murdy with the club, manager Joe Torre, and his thoughts.
The Yankees still play God Bless America during every seventh-inning stretch, and to Joe Torre, it still means something. And the national anthem isn't just a song followed by play ball. It's all changed since last September 11th.
After 9/11, I think you're listening to the words of Star Spangled Banner and God Bless America and America the Beautiful, and all those words that, again, that we just took for granted. And, you know, anytime you hear the marching songs, I mean, in movies and stuff, I get goosebumps because it's just so stimulating.
A monument will be dedicated in Monument Park during special pregame ceremonies tonight. The game will feature a moment of silence at exactly 9:11 p.m.
And the Yankees sweep of the day-night doubleheader lowers the magic number to 10. The Yankees knocking off the Birds 3-1 last night. Met catcher Mike Piazza says it'll be tough for his team to focus, especially this afternoon. The Mets dropping the 12-6 decision last night in Atlanta. The Mets and Braves will play a day-night doubleheader today.
You just kind of draw, and you have to dig down into what got you here, and, you know, what allows you to do your job. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough. I mean, we're all going to have a lot of things on our minds, and there's going to be a lot of emotion. But, you know, you have to try to focus and do your job. It's tough, but, you know, we have to do what we can.
To keep focused, Mets Extra on the Fan at 12:25. Giants a one-game lead on the Dodgers for the National League wildcard today, and the Angels closed within 2 of the A's in the American League East. The Giants knocking off the Dodgers 5-2 last night, and the Angels with a 5-2 victory against Oakland last night. Surgery for Shaq. We'll talk about that next, and Fan 2020 Sports is brought to you by BMW of Bayside, your certified pre-owned specialist. Visit them at www.baysidemw.com.
Your son hit you up for a 3-digit price pair of sneakers. Your daughter really, really needed that cute little purse. Well, now it's your turn, because at BMW of Bayside, you can drive a low-mileage, certified pre-owned BMW at special lease prices and financing as low as 3.9%. It's the ultimate driving machine. All have passed a stringent inspection, all come with balance of 6-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and Bayside's exclusive free loaner car program. For only $199 a month, lease a 1997 328 IS with a sunroof, onboard computer, and more, just $199. See ad in Sunday's New York Times, only at BMW of Bayside, 247-21 Northern Boulevard. Call 718-229-4400 or www.bmwbayside.com. Close-in 24-month lease with $39.19 due at inception. Total monthly payments $47.76. VIN number ET34767 with 58K miles. 3.9 APR financing on select models up to 60 months, subject to primary lender approval.
WFAN 2020 Sports Time is 10:03. Lakers center Shaquille O'Neal scheduled to have surgery today on his arthritic big toe. Could be sidelined for up to 6 weeks, and that would mean that he might not be ready when they open the season October 29th against the San Antonio Spurs. WFAN wants you to know that SIDS will be hosting their 5th annual Hackers Golf Outing on Monday, September 16th at the Colonial Springs Golf Course, and for more information on that, you can call 631-863-1443. Here's weather forecast. Mostly cloudy and windy today, high of 80. Mostly clear tonight, low 58. Sunshine tomorrow, high 72. Current Central Park temperature 75 degrees. Skies are mostly sunny. That's what's happening. This is John Minko with 2020 Sports on WFAN, the flagship station for New York Mets baseball.
Sports Radio 66 WFAN, New York.
4 minutes after 10 on Wednesday, September 11th, 2002. Mac and Sid on the Fan. I'm Jody McDonald along with my partner, Sidney Rosenberg. Good morning, Sidney.
Good morning, Jody Mac. How are you?
We'll be here for 2 hours and some change. Met baseball coming up later on this afternoon. They got a day-night doubleheader against the Braves. And as I said at the top, If you're listening to the sound of our voice, within the sound of our voice, you know what today's date is and what it signifies. If you've been listening to Mr. Imus's show, the replays from 1 year ago and what transpired here in the city and in our country and the effect that it's had on everyone who considers themselves a New Yorker or lives in the New York metropolitan area, or an American for that matter, has not been lost. And today is a day just to remember it and continue the memory, and also stay vigilant for what happened, so that we can hopefully avert any similar type tragedy anytime in the near future. And on the show today, Sid, we're going to try and leave it up to the listeners. If they want to call in and talk about what happened a year ago, we'll take those calls. If they want to call in and talk about what happened a year ago, how the year has transpired, and how it ties into the world of sports, we'll take those calls. Or if they want to use sports for what a lot of people use it for, as an escape, to be able to just get away from the other aspects of life, the other aspects of the world, they can do that as well. We're going to try and keep it real open-ended.
I left my house this morning, Jody, about after the 7 o'clock hour, and I live only a couple of blocks away from the site of the World Trade Center. And this was, about 4 o'clock this morning, the bagpipers already started to march towards the site, and I can hear them outside my window because, again, I live very close to the site. And as I was leaving my house today, the West Side Highway was already being closed, and the West Side Highway was packed for blocks and blocks with people just standing there waiting to see whatever they can see. And there were some people, Jody, that were a good 3-4 blocks away from the site. And as I was making the turn around to come back towards the FDR to head towards the station, again, a good 45 minutes before any of the actual ceremony started taking place, I noticed that people were just standing on the side of the road, just looking out into space, almost like zombies, and just crying. There were no speeches being made. There was no music in the background. There was more chaos. There was more police getting people ready and setting up the site. And there were just scores of people standing along the West Side Highway that are probably there right now for the ceremonies that were just staring straight ahead and crying. That's how my morning started, and then I came into work. But it brought me back to last year, because I was on the air with Imus talking about the Giant Bronco game from the night before when the first plane hit. And I remember, Jody Mack, when I left the studios last year, I left with Lori McNichol, who does the traffic report for Imus, and Kara Dugan, who's Imus's executive producer, and we took the train up. One of my wife's best friends, her name is Paige Richmond. Her ex-boyfriend at the time, a gentleman by the name of Michael Murphy. Mike Murphy's brother worked at Cantor Fitzgerald. And Paige, my wife's girlfriend, really wanted Danielle and I to be at the apartment with her and Mike as they awaited news throughout the day about his brother. And I left the station with Kara and Lori, and I got up to Paige's apartment at about 6:30 p.m. last year on September 11th. And Mike was there, and his other brother was there, Greg. And they were all very, very optimistic that their brother was alive. Again, he worked for Cantor Fitzgerald. And we sat around for 4 or 5 hours. Every time the phone rang, people jumped up, and they were hoping it was going to be Mike's brother. And obviously that phone call never came. And about 11:30 that night, they came to the realization that it may have been over, and they all went up to their house at the Jersey Shore. And I actually slept over that night at Paige's apartment and came back the next day. So I was here, so obviously I wasn't a part of the story as it unfolded. But I did spend last September 11th in a house with a couple of family members who lost a brother. And in fact, Jody, over the last couple of weeks, there have been a lot of different specials with wives that have had babies post-September 11th. And I knew two of those guys, Mike Murphy's brother and a buddy of mine named Ari Jacobs, who I played basketball with every Saturday morning up in Riverdale. And his wife, Jenna, had a beautiful baby boy about 2 weeks after the tragedy. And it just, that's, I don't know, just brought back memories of being in that apartment last year. And it was just, it was a rough night. And that was just one family out of thousands and thousands that have been grieving now the last 12 months.
And even if you didn't know someone directly who was lost in the tragedy, because it was so great, because it was such a large number of people that were casualties, you knew someone that knew someone.
Yeah.
If it wasn't a direct friend, if it wasn't a family member, if it was someone that you spent quality time with, I was lucky enough. I thank the Lord that I didn't have someone that I can call a good friend or a relative or someone that I knew on an intimate basis who lost their life on September 11th of last year. But I have a lot of friends who had friends who were lost on that day. And it's the domino effect that everybody knows someone who knows someone, And it's affected all of our lives and will continue to affect our lives. And you mentioned, Sydney, that you saw so many people out there, they're crying today and just staring out into space and not even doing anything in specific, just needing, they feel, to be close to where this tragedy transpired. They have to handle it the way that they have to handle it. Some people will try and avoid today and will try and do anything but think about what today is about and what it signifies and the fact that 365 days have gone by. And others will want to be very involved and want to know everything and try and be a participant in ongoing activities. There's no wrong way to handle it today. There's really no right way to handle it. There's no judgment to be made as to how someone should handle their day today. It's individual. You have to decide how you want to handle it, you think will best suit yourself to how to handle it. And that's why we're going to try and handle it as open-ended as we can today, because so many people were affected in so many different ways. For us to try and make a judgment on how it should be handled, I think is presumptuous and just plain wrong.
No, I'm with you. There are people that are down there today that have family members, and I just read a story a little while ago, Jody, about a young boy that lost his dad last year in the disaster, and he and his mom took off to Alaska, believe it or not, to go fishing, because he didn't want to be here and he didn't want to go through those memories all over again. So they're thousands and thousands of miles away, and they're going to spend, him and his mom are going to spend the next couple of days fishing, because I mean, it's been the last couple of days. I know for me last night, Jody, I'm not going to lie to you, I saw a little bit of the Met game, and I saw them get hammered by the Braves, and the Braves hit home runs every at bat, it seemed like. But I spent the good majority of last night, watching ABC, who had a terrific show on last night, Report from Ground Zero, where they showed a couple of firemen that were trapped last year and made it out alive. And then they showed a couple of firemen that lost family members that were down there specifically after September 11th digging to try to find remains of their kids. And there's one gentleman, and I just feel terrible because I've
I'll send it.